Hello everybody and welcome to round number 18 of the 2022 GP4 Offline Championship. We are here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City for the Mexican Grand Prix, the fourth to last race of the season, and of course the second, the last North American race of the season. I'm JW97 and I'm joined just like yesterday by my arch nemesis Ra.
Yep, hello everybody, and we are gonna take over for the grid.
Yep, indeed, 4x4 as per usual after another wet qualifying session indeed. So, on pole position for the first time since the Spanish Grand Prix, it must be said, is Carr in the Mercedes with Evan Byrne alongside him in second. George Roque, after a few mistakes in Q3, will start in third with Franco Lopez down in fourth.
David Cupid in fifth in the AlphaTauri, impressive covering from him, with Chris Chatford in sixth in the Ferrari, Nico Scon the other AlphaTauri in seventh, with Roman Krog in the Renault in eighth.
Valdenga, a very impressive qualifying for him, for the man who's staying at Sauber for next season in ninth, with Michael Mocha rounding out the top 10 in 10th. Jesus Perina misses out on a Q3 appearance thanks to changeable conditions in 11th, with Rahul Patel in 12th.
Jake Galloway in the other Ferrari starts in 13th, with Laura Chung in the other Lamborghini starts in 14th. And the two McLarens locking up the 8th for the grid, with Joseph Willis in 15th and Carrossa Maduros in 16th.
Archer's Kloss, thanks to the changeable conditions in Q1, will start down in 17th, with Felix Sontag in 18th. Joantas Martin starts in 19th, whilst Dominic Duchelli, on his debut in the top class, will start in 20th. And on the back row of the grid, Ra?
We have Andrew Federi in 21st in the Aston Martin and JB Griffiths in the Williams in 22nd.
And we have rain for the race, as you can see right there, but it looks to be very changeable weather. It looks like it's going to start out with normal wet conditions, and then it will change to the intermediates towards the end, and maybe we could get heavier weather right towards the end, but we'll have to wait and see on that. So it's going to be a very interesting race, but without further ado, let us get on with the 71-lap Mexican Grand Prix. And, well, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how the drivers tackled the first corner in these conditions, and who is going to get the lead into that long run into the first corner.
Yep, indeed. And looking at how wet the track is, it looks like we might start on the extreme wets.
No, I think it's going to be the normal wets, Ra, as I mentioned, because of the colour code.
You sure? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've already mentioned that right at the beginning. But anyway, he said that there are extreme wet tyres. He might have been right after all. So I don't know why the graphic was saying it was normal wets, because they're clearly extreme wets. But anyway, let's get on with it then. So on the left we have Carr. On the right we have Evan Byrne, who is going to get the lead into the first corner in these atrocious conditions as we wait for the 5 red lights to go on. We have 4 lights and 5 lights are on. It is lights out, and away we go after quite a long hold with the lights. And who is going to get the lead into that first corner? It's a very good start for Carr. He's got a much better launch than Evan Byrne. Looks like Roque might have had a better start compared to Evan Byrne. Is he going to try and get in the slipstream of Carr going down into the first corner? He's going to think about it. He's got his teammate Alpha's car and Roque go side by side. Lopez has also got the jump on Byrne, who's not had the best of starts. Going down towards that first corner as they go into the first corner. Oh, bit of contact there. Oh, bit of damage there. I don't know who's got damage there. It's Byrne who's got damage into the first corner. The championship contender with damage has that Mercedes. Also got damage. No car has got damage. He's just about avoided it. Quag gets up to third place. An amazing start from him, but chaos at the first corner as Byrne has got damage.
Yep, chaos at the first corner. Martin's actually up to 10th. I think the Lamborghinis have also gone backwards as well. Maybe could be taking over the action. Gell's got damage as well. So what a start from Johannes Martins there.
Indeed.
Oh, Federi
as well. As more contact there, but somehow they avoided damage from all of that. But I think there is an Alfa Romeo. It looks like Kloss has got damage as well. In the Haas, there are quite a few cars have got damage. Galloway also has damage as well in the Ferrari. What on earth happened at the start? He's lost his rear wing.
Yeah, he's lost his rear wing, and he started 13th. The Lamborghinis actually went backwards, it seems. I feel like they were taking avoided action. They were just caught out by everyone's mess.
Indeed, so we're going to take a look from George Roque's perspective now then, because he got a great launch, although we're going to look from Franco Lopez, I think, although it was Carr that was the one that Byrne collided with there at the start, and somehow Carr didn't get any damage from all of that. But we're running on board with Franco Lopez, who of course got the jump on Byrne, mainly because of Roque's very rude chop across him, going around that straight. I don't think Byrne's going to be particularly happy about that one. Lopez took full advantage, said thank you very much, I gained the place there. He's also up to second now, because of course it looked like Carr went a bit wide into that first corner. Lopez actually dived him into that first corner, and then the Byrne, who was on the inside there, well, had to take avoiding action because everything that's going on. And Byrne has got damage to his rear wing as a result. I thought it was his front wing that he lost, but it was his rear wing. And I think that was why Gal lost his front wing.
Yeah, I think he just didn't know Ben was going to park at the apex and just went to the back of him. Just nothing Gal could do there.
Yep, indeed.
And yeah, what a start from Jantos Martins. Sorry to interrupt.
A great start there for Martins, gaining 9 places from his original grid spot. Let's see how he did this and how on earth he avoided all the chaos then. So as you can see, he tried to go in the middle there of, I think that was Barch's Kloss and one of the McLarens on the right, but then went to the right-hand side to go past them there. Went by the tried to go by the Lamborghini there of Laura Chung, who looked like she didn't get a good start at all in this race now. And as they made their way down towards the first corner, because this is where all the chaos was starting to emerge, and there was just enough of a gap on the inside. Well, in fact, he actually made contact with Jesus Quinn and a bit more contact there with Benz Valdinga on the left-hand side. And, well, he kind of muscled his way through there. And with cars who got damage in front, he was able to take full advantage, and he's now into the points thanks to that.
Yeah, lucky he didn't get damage from that as well, so pretty lucky for him. And he's taking advantage. Now he's going to survive the entire lap as well. The Lamborghinis, of course, went backwards. Now we need to look at Bartus on how he got damage. Did he hit the back of the McLaren? Oh, he hit the back of the Ferrari. That Galloway, yes.
Was Galloway, of course, so that's how he lost his rear wing. In the process of all of that, Kloss ran into the back, and 4 cars, as a result, will have to come in for a pit stop, I think. Or is it 3 cars? I'm not sure. But either way, Roque is leading the way from Franco Lopez in second. So it's the top 2 from the United States Grand Prix back in the front with Quag with a fantastic start up to 3rd. And, well, we are expecting a 1-stop in this race because, of course, even though we're on wet tyres, obviously they have got the harder grip levels than what the slick tyres would, so that's also something to bear in mind. But meanwhile, Lopez trying to catch back up to Roque. His car trying to find a way through on Quag. Perrin going around Byrne there was having to crawl his way back to the pit, and hopefully nobody runs into him because this can also be a bit of a danger corner at the start of the race. We'll see if there's going to be any more carnage that ensues. There's lots of movement going on. There's also Gal. Gal is out of the race. He's been collected by someone, so he's going to be out of the race. And Griffiths has gone wide and all of that. And I'm not sure who it was that collected him, but I don't think the person who collected him got damage from all of that, as Roque sets the early fastest lap of the race.
I think Gal shut the door. I think it was from McLaren. Let's see. He lets one of the McLarens through, and then he just shuts the door on the other one.
It was Joseph Willows he chopped across there because, well, you can see the Francois Sever helmet that Kirishima DeRosa wears, and, well, Willows was very lucky himself that he did not sustain any damage from all of that.
You can also say the same for Patel. He just got caught up right in there. And lucky, how did he not hit the wheel? And Griffiths actually went off. Is that Sontag? Actually, it was Sontag who went off.
It was Griffiths. No, it
was
Griffiths.
It was Griffiths.
Did see that. Because,
it was from...
was saying there, we did see that, of course, on the camera because he did get pushed off by Kirishima DeRosa there because of that whole exchange with Gal, but he was very lucky as well. He didn't get any damage, but a chaotic start with Roque in the race, and Carr, surprisingly, not close enough to Quag down the pit straight. I thought he'd be a lot closer than that, but clearly not on this occasion.
Yeah, clearly not. And looking at the field he has, yeah, not ideal looking at this.
So now we look at, this is a Videri now, then on the inside of this is Jamie Griffiths going down the pit straight now. Then is he going to grab P13 from the Williams drivers and now make their way down towards the first couple of the corners now. Then, of course, the damaged cars are now into the pits as we speak, as Videri gets the move done there on Jamie Griffiths, and he moves up into what I think it was 14th place there or something like that, as the damaged cars are finished there. Byrne will have to make a recovery through the field as Kloss has only just come into his box now, in fact. And, well, in fact, that's a little bit of a weird one there. I don't know what was going on there with Barch's Kloss. But anyway, either way, they've got their damage repair. But back up front, Roque has got a 1.7 second lead in front of Franco Lopez, as Quag is still fending off from Armar Carr, as Martin's trying to keep up with, I think that would obviously be Chris Chatfield, of course, because Galloway came in for damage. But either way, a chaotic start to the Grand Prix.
Yep, and Quag and Carr are actually catching up to... Lopez and potentially Roque, so yeah, let's see how they would do, but they both are catching up to Lopez right at the moment.
Yep, indeed, as they now make their way in towards the hairpin on the racetrack now. Then there's Quag currently trying to find a way through on, well, that would be Franco Lopez, in fact, because Lopez has actually dropped a little bit backwards now from all of this, and even Quarg has caught up as well, so it seems that Lopez is lacking a little bit of play so far in these wet conditions. Quarg finding himself in a Mercedes sandwich at this stage, and is Quarg going to actually try and go for a move on Lopez? I don't think he is. I don't think he's close enough. Is Car close enough to get to Quarg? I don't think he is. I think, again, they just lose out on a bit of traction, and that's kind of the issue around this track, really, because of that Mickey Mouse section of the racetrack, which is the baseball stadium. It kind of makes it hard for traction coming out of that corner, as, well, Quarg thinking about a move into that corner there, but thought better of it last minute, and well, that's pretty much that really, as now Carr may have an opportunity to try and pounce into the second chicane.
Yep, Quarg did set the fastest lap, and now he's just lost the momentum. Now Carr's gonna have a go. Let's see what's gonna happen here. Quarg does defend the inside line. Oh, Carr goes for it. Bit of contact there. Does he go through on the outside? Not quite, but they're still side by side, but Quarg holds on.
Quarg holding on to the place, but they've lost all the momentum in the world now to Franco Lopez, with Roque now having quite a big lead in front. Meanwhile, De Rosa's trying to find a way through on Rahul Patel into the left-right chicane on the racetrack. As meanwhile, just looking at the placements, Martins, as mentioned, gaining 11 places from his original grid start, as now Lopez will make his way for the right and left-hander. Meanwhile, Carr is once again back on the prow of Romain Quarg, and well, so far just struggling to find a way through on the Renault.
Yeah, and when you said De Rosa was having a go at Patel, I think Patel might have overtaken him somewhere.
Indeed, as well, that's pretty much that really. As now coming towards the stadium section, we will go, as now Carr will try and see if he can keep up with the traction of the Renault driver in front, through into the Mansell corner, and now into the second part of the Perlotala. Now then, is he close enough to get Quarg this time? As he come onto the pit straight, and I'm not sure he is, to be honest, but we will ride on board to see if he is gaining in the slipstream or not as they come down the pit straight on the racetrack. Now then, is he close enough to go for a move? I don't think he is. I think once again he just struggles with traction, like with most of the drivers coming out of that Mansell corner, and as a result he's not close enough to go for a move on the Renault driver.
Yep, and you can see he is braking later than Quarg as well, so he is doing well in the brakings. So I feel like Quarg's not been able to do well in the brakings, but he is closing in.
Indeed, as now we come down towards the left-hander on the racetrack. Car trying to have a look on Romain Quarg, but you can't find a way through again. Quarg defending the inside, going into the left-right chicane on the racetrack now. Then as they now make their way towards the double right-hander. Meanwhile, this is Chatfield, and he's thinking about a dive on Perinen there, but at the last minute, Perinen closing the door, and Chatfield had to lift off the throttle there just to make sure he didn't cream cracker into the back of him. And like with Carr on Quarg, it just seems that Chatfield's also struggling to find a way through on Perinen at the moment.
Yep, I mean, he's got a good gap to Martin, so he's holding up a few cars behind. Actually, he does have a gap to Valdinger, so looks like he's got the pace of a Valdinger.
Indeed, as meanwhile Quarg is second behind Lopez. Meanwhile, this is Carr trying to find a way through on Romain Quarg, once again going defensive into the baseball stadium, and well, it just seems that Lopez at the moment just kind of struggling for a little bit of pace in that Mercedes, as he tries his best to close in onto George Roque in front, who's got a bit of a gap to the Mercedes driver as we speak, as in fact Quarg has caught back up now to Franco Lopez. It just seems like he may be struggling a little bit with his strategy, and Carr is leaving his pit stop quite late in the race. It looks like Carr and I think Lopez are on a similar strategy in this Grand Prix, and now make their way onto the pit straight now then, and let's see if Carr can find a way through on Romain Quarg down this pit straight now then. Is he close enough to go for it on the Renault driver this time? I'm not sure he is, as Quarg actually sets the fastest lap of the race meanwhile, so he's holding on to the bonus point for the fastest lap of the race. But again, Carr is not close enough to go for a move at this stage of the race, and well, Roque's still leading by 2.5 seconds, so really there's not really been much separation going on in the top four.
Yeah, not really much. I feel like Quarg is the quickest car, is the quickest of the top four, and there's Galloway.
I think there was actually contact there between Kloss and Galloway there, as Kloss was quite close to him there, but thankfully it didn't end in much disaster really. And you're pointing out as well in a little chat in as Byrne sets the fastest lap of the race, so no one will be getting the bonus point for the first time this season. So far this season, we'll be pointing out as well as the bonus for the fastest lap of the race. So far this season, so far been awarded in every race so far, because everybody in the top 10 this season has been able to get a bonus point. But But at the moment, with Byrne currently holding on to that, it will not be awarded in this race. And Yuri has mentioned, putting out in our little stream chat, that Quag and Carr are much faster than Rogue, but because they're stuck behind Lopez, they can't really do much about it.
Yeah, so if Cog gets the move on Lopez, then he's got to chase down Rogue, and then it's Car's turn. But yeah, if Car and Quad keep battling each other, then it's gonna lose them time. And also, if they get stuck behind Lopez for as long as they can, it'll help Rogue a lot.
Coming around the Pelotala once again now then, as well, it looks like Quag had a bit of a wider line there. This might be Car's opportunity to go for it there, because Quag did make a mistake coming around the Pelotala. Is Car close enough to finally get the move done on Roman Quag as it come onto the very front straight now? And then once again, I think he's just a little bit too far back as a result, although he's still going to try. Quag, though, goes defensive, and he still holds onto the place. So even with a mistake, Car just could not capitalise, and Quag is still stuck behind Lopez. As Yuri mentioned in our little chat, these two need to get by Lopez quickly, because they're clearly quicker than Roke at the moment, but they can't really do much if they're stuck behind the championship leader.
Yep, and Quag's not close enough on Lopez. Car is in the slipstream. Quag's actually sending it on the inside.
Say that because he was trying to have a go there, but he wasn't fully committed, and Lopez holds on to the place as now we come towards the double right-hander, and Quag's still stuck in the Mercedes sandwich at the stage. Meanwhile, we've got Patel, who's all over the back here of David Cooper. Is he going to try and go around the outside into this left-hander? He's going to try and hang it around the outside. Can he pull the move off into this right-hander? No, he can't. I thought for a minute there he was going to actually try and pull it off, but Cooper just holding on to the place for the moment as we look at Byrne, who's now actually caught up to the back of the debutant Dominic DeCelli in the Alfa Romeo, who's currently stuck behind one of the Williamses at this stage, as we now look back at Roman Quag, who is still stuck behind Franco Lopez, and Carr also following suit as well. Lopez really holding these two up.
Yeah, Lopez really holding these two up, and that's not what they need. And I don't know how much time Roke is getting. I think he might be 5 seconds ahead of these guys.
Looking at the gap between Lopez and Roke, it's about 3.3 seconds.
3.3, not much.
It is between them at the moment. I mean, it says it on the top of the dev panel there. But meanwhile, Byrne, on seen by the cameras, has passed DeCelli, so he's up now into what is 18th position. And now his next target will be Jamie Griffiths towards the back of the field. Meanwhile, we're running on board with Lopez, who's still keeping the gap consistent between himself and Roman Quag as they make their way down towards the first corner. Quag again thought about to dive into the first corner, but he can't make it stick. Maybe a little bit of impatience creeping in on Roman Quag, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting frustrated in that cockpit.
Maybe. I think we might need to go back at that. We might see a move. Actually, we look at DeCelli, who's going for a move at the hairpin on Evan Byrne. Doesn't quite work there.
Byrne, meanwhile, let's not forget, he is on fresher tyres, even though they are 1 lap younger than what the others are running, but still could give him a little bit of a helping hand, although doesn't look like he's had much traction there compared to the Williams, but I don't think it's going to matter too much, because here comes the straight line speed of this Honda engine now. Then Byrne right on the back now then of Jamie Griffiths. He's right in the slipstream. He's going to go to the inside line. Can Byrne pull the move off here on Jamie Griffiths? Clearly seeing red in his eyes right now is Evan Byrne, going down towards the first corner, and he takes the place of E. Didn't even need to wait for the corner, and Byrne is up into 17th place. Next target for him, who is in 16th place. I'm actually not sure, to be honest, because the graphic didn't show us. Meanwhile, Kloss now on the inside of Galloway into the first corner. These two have already made contact going into the stadium section, and Kloss finally gets the move done on Galloway.
Yep. Evan Byrne on the man of the move, and Kloss, Gallo, and important there from Byrne, and he's on the charge. I don't know if he'll be able to catch up to Lopez. I mean, of course, we were only 7 laps in. We're about to start lap 8, so it's still a long way to go.
As we look back now at this battle for second, looks like Lopez has pulled a bit of a gap now to Roman Quag. And Carr, is he close enough this time by to try and get a move here on Roman Quag? I don't think he is. I think once again he's just struggling with traction compared to that Renault at the moment. And Quag doing a good job keeping Carr back, even though he's probably frustrated at the same time being stuck behind Lopez. As we now ride on board with Patel, who's once again trying to find a way through on David Cupop for the final points place. But again, just like with others, just struggling with traction going around the second part of the Pelotala there. And well, that's that. Meanwhile, Carr, is he close enough maybe to try and have a go into this left-right chicane now? Then he's right in the slipstream of Quag now then, but it looks like Quag's already going defensive, and Carr not close enough to go for the move as Quag breaks that a little bit later than what Lopez does. So clearly, Quag and Carr are a lot more confident on the brakes than what Lopez is at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like it. I feel like Lopez really is struggling with pace. Meanwhile, Byrne sets another fast lap for the race, 1:31.8.
Yep, indeed, as we now look at Rokus just coming around that part. Meanwhile, Patel once again trying to hang it running outside of David Kupok now. Then, of course, these two are fighting for that second salva seat, of course. And Kupok once again holding on to the place compared to Patel as they now make their way in towards that double right-hander. 3.7 seconds is the gap between Roke and Lopez so far in the top two. And, well, with Lopez holding up Quag and Carr, it's really doing Roke a favour at this stage.
Yep, it's giving Roke a good advantage. I mean, it's only 3.7 seconds, but it's still good enough. He just needs to keep on gaining, keep on putting away as much as he can until until the pit stops if Lopez holds them off.
Indeed, as we now come onto the pit straight, and once again Quag and Carr struggling with traction compared to Lopez, and well, that's that really. You can tell how much the traction is affecting Carr because he lost 2 tenths out of that compared to Quag as they now make their way down towards that first corner. And again, same story. Quag a lot more confident on the brakes than what Lopez is going into that first corner there. The gap 3.9 meanwhile between Lopez and Roke at this stage. And well, Lopez still having enough of a gap to stay in front of Quag down this straight. So really, these two are just going to have a bit of a headache trying to find a way through on Lopez. And the pit stops, as we can see with the fuel, is not going to be for a long time as Quag had to go defensive there because of Armar Khan. Meanwhile, Patel trying to dive it down the inside of Kupok, but Kupok shut the door on him last minute. I thought for a minute that was going to end in disaster, but thankfully it didn't. And once again, Kupok fending off from Patel. But so far, we've not seen that much on-track overtaking at this stage. And as mentioned, the pit stops are not going to be happening for quite a while in this race.
Yep, and Patel is on a lot of fuel load, so it does look like he is on a 2-stop, but he is getting frustrated being stuck behind Kupok. It is ruining his race at the moment, and De Rosa is right behind them.
Yeah, indeed, as Carr tries to find a way through on Quag heading in towards that stadium section, and Quag defends the inside going into that right-hander, and Carr doing all he can to try and find a way through on the Renault driver, but so far just finding himself a little bit frustrated, still seeing the yellow and white Renault right in front of him, as at the same time Lopez is still keeping these two back at this stage of the race.
Yeah, Lopez doing a good job here. I mean, Quag is struggling a lot to get past Lopez, same for Carr, trying to get past Quag. And yeah, Lopez has pulled away a bit from the traction from Quag on the final corner, so Quag's lost time and is over a second now.
Yeah, indeed, looks like Quag had a horrible exit coming out of that final turn, but even so, Carr was still not able to capitalise from that. Not even the mistake. So it looks like someone's got an engine failure. See, we've just seen that someone's got an nose burn. It's Evan Byrne who's out of the race. A huge championship implication right there with Lopez up in second place. And this is not going the way that Byrne was expecting. Could his championship be slipping away?
It could be. I mean, after this race, we have 3 rounds to go, so the championship could be slipping away, but he's got to do the maximum he can. And within these final 3 rounds, unfortunately, he tried everything. I mean, he got unlucky from the damage he got in the first lap, and now this. He was doing well with the pace. He was quick. He was the quickest car on track, and now this happens.
He's going to be pulling off right on the pit straight here. So Evan Byrne is going to be out of the Mexican Grand Prix, and that is not good with his rival up in second place. It's not going to be good news for him. And, well, I can say as, well, it looked like the Williams there had to back out of that, and it looks like he's going to pull off at turn 1. So he's going to pull off quite safely there, is Evan Byrne. But this is not going to help him in terms of the championship, because with Lopez up in second place, and with only 3 races to go after this, if it was to stay like this at this stage, because coming into this race, of course, the gap was 20 points between the pair of them. If Lopez was to finish in second, the gap would be up to 38 points between the pair of them, and as a result, Lopez would actually have a slim opportunity to actually wrap up the title at Bahrain.
Yeah, indeed, yeah, that is going to be most unexpected, but of course, 11 laps in, still a long way to go. Anything can happen. It could all change still.
It could still all change, and even Roke would actually be close behind Byrne if it was to stay like this in the championship. So the 2 Red Bulls are actually quite close together, which might actually help Roke's chances in trying to be Byrne's teammate again next season at Red Bull, because he is determined to still be with that team for next season as Lopez goes defensive into that chicane, speaking of which, and well, Quag's still giving Lopez a little bit of trouble at the moment, but I think Lopez would have been given the call at this stage that his rival is out of the race with an engine failure.
Yeah, he must know, but of course, he's doing his race and he's trying to get the maximum he can. I mean, he doesn't have the pace to road, and he's doing well holding up Krog and his teammates.
Yeah, indeed, and well, that's pretty much that really, as we now look at the rest of the field. Patel's up the temp, he finally got the move done on David Kubok, and I think he got him at the left-right chicane.
Have he done the dummy over him? Yep, he's done the dummy over him, and what a send there from Patel.
Great move indeed there for the Indian driver, as he's now up into 10th place. So at least there is now one Lamborghini in the points as a result, as they're trying to, of course, continue their point streak that they've currently got since the, of course, last season's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Carr tried to have a look on the inside there, as Quad got a little bit flustered there with Lopez's braking going into the baseball stadium there. And, well, Carr nearly took full advantage of that.
Yep, Carr nearly took advantage of that. Of course, now this is getting crucial for Krog, that he's got to get past Lopez. I mean, it could be his best opportunity for him to win a race, but then again, he could be a bit more worried about Renault's reliability.
Yeah, indeed, and it looked like, again, not great traction, but Carr is quite close to the back of him. Meanwhile, coming down this straight on the racetrack, but again, I don't think Carr is close enough to get a hold of Krog at this stage of the race, and, well, he's given Lopez a little bit of breathing space at this stage. Patel, of course, as we mentioned, past Kupok, so his next target for him will be Bence Valdinga in 9th place, who's so far having a pretty quiet and good race so far in that Alfa Romeo.
Yep, started 9th, and now is 9th so far. Still a good race. Of course, a great race for Martins after that amazing start, amazing lap 1 start he had. So, yeah, he's keeping it under control. Martins doing well as well. That's why he is moving on to Renault for next season.
Indeed, of course, partnering the man that we're currently looking at the moment, Roman Quag, who's currently in this fight for second place with the 2 Mercedes drivers. Meanwhile, Roke has now got the gap up to 4.3 seconds between himself and Franco Lopez. So whilst this battle keeps on going, he's just slowly pulling away from that lot. And, well, it's working in his favour at the moment. But let's not forget, if Quag and Carr at one stage do get by Lopez within these next couple of laps, then Roke might have a lot to deal with. Because, of course, as we mentioned, the pit stops are not going to be happening until, like, towards the back end of the race, of course, like just after the halfway stage of the race.
Yeah, after the halfway stage of the race, I feel like Krog and Carr will have to pressure Lopez into a mistake. I feel like Lopez is keeping it under control, but they need to pressure him into a mistake. If they can't get the move done here, they might have to pressure him into a mistake, and if they can't, they'll have to wait until the pit stops.
Indeed, as Quag now then coming around the final turn, and once again just having enough of a gap to stay in front of the car, but still not having the gap needed to try and pass Franco Lopez at this stage. He does set a personal best at the moment of a 1:32.5, but so far he's still not got the fastest lap. I think, even though he's retired, I think Byrne has still got the fastest lap, if I'm not mistaken, unless that got took away since the time that he's been retired. I'm not sure, but meanwhile Patel is now on the back of Bence Valdinga. He's caught him up, but can he get past him a lot easier than what he did with David Kupok, I wonder?
Yeah, let's see how close he is. It's kind of a far gap. Let's see if he can catch up as much as he can in the slipstream. He's closing in. I don't think it might be enough, but let's see if he'll go for a lunge.
He's getting closer and closer. He's going to go for the inside line. Benson's defending the inside. Patel trying to stick his nose on the inside into that corner. It's all bit of contact there, but luckily it didn't end in disaster. But I guess you could say that's a little bit of a warning shot for Patel. But that's just dragged Kupok and also one of the McLarens into this. I think that's Kirishima DeRosa in 12th place that's trying to gain on this as well as now Patel. Is he going to try and do the same move as he did to David Kupok at this chicane? He's thinking about it. Fakes to the right, goes to the left, and he looks like he's going to pull off a similar move into the chicane. Down the inside we go. There's still side by side though. Valding is still sticking it in there, but in the end, Patel hangs it around the outside and he's up into 9th place. Once again, pulling off that move like he did with David Kupok.
Yeah, great move by Patel. The next target for him is Johannes Martins.
In a second, Lopez is coming into the pits this lap, and it's not for a mechanical problem. I wonder if the conditions have changed because there's a few pit calls. Of course, we did see on the weather radar that it was normal wets for some reason, but for whatever reason, these guys are on the extreme wets. So I wonder if he's going to be changing onto the normal wet compound. Let's see.
Yep, Roke actually stayed out, which is interesting that he is staying out. Krog's also stayed out, same with Carr. Of course, Carr for his teammate, he's pinned. Byrne is also pinned as well.
Macho's also in. Now, is this for the normal wets? Let's keep an eye on the colour of the tyres as Lopez pits in, and it is for the normal wet tyres. So Lopez is changing the compound. He thinks it's time to switch onto the normal wet, and I presume that's what everybody else is doing that's coming in, although Lopez is having to wait for Macho to go by.
Yeah, this could help Lopez a lot here, and yeah, looking at the track, it is The track conditions are improving, so we might see more faster laps coming in.
Nacho on the normal wets, Perinin on the normal wets as well. A load of looks like Lamborghini mechanics also as well, which is what Perinin is having to wait for. He's having to wait for a few cars to go by him. In fact, he was waiting for Martins to go by on that occasion, as Patel is also in now for normal wet. So these are impromptu pit stops that we're looking at, and I would not be surprised if the top three of Roke, Quag and Carr get the call this lap.
Yeah, won't be surprised at all on that. Let's see, Martins. 5.4 second pit stop. He doesn't have to wait, so you won't lose a position there. Patel.
He's
Long pit stop, yeah. Yeah, he has to wait.
Dear,
Aston.
Aston Martin have made a bit of an error there because Martins has made a pit stop and Videri obviously wasn't aware that Aston Martin was serving, and as a result, he's going to use a chunk of time thanks to this, and now only now.
No.
And also,
Lamborghini.
Lamborghini have done the same as well with Laura Chung as well, so Aston Martin and Lamborghini making the same error.
Yeah, indeed. Cross is also in, so of course has to get away with it. Of course, I think because Mocho was in the top 10 anyway. But yeah, that's a shame for Videri and for Chung.
They've finally been served, but they're not going to be happy with their teams one bit, and you can understand possibly why Chung wants to leave Lamborghini at the end of the season. Roke has got the call. He's coming into the pits, but Quag has not got the call yet, but Carr has. Very interesting what Renault are trying here with Quag.
Could it be a late call? I don't know.
If he was to get the call, he would have got it. He would have got it right at the beginning of Sector 3, and, well, he's not got that call. And, Williams have also done the same thing as well. Looks like they were serving, but it looks like he might actually get away with it because of the whole animation graphic with that whole thing. So a little bit interesting there with what Williams is going on. But Quag does take the lead of the race, and Roke is now in, as is Armar Carr. So a bit of an interest. So Roke is now in. Quag sets the fastest lap of the race, meanwhile, on the extreme wet. So currently he's holding on to that bonus point for the fastest lap of the race. So very interesting to see. Maybe he feels a little bit more comfortable on these tyres. I'm not sure, but either way, Carr and Roke and Carr are ditching these tyres, and well, they're thinking it's time for the extreme wet. So you might need to pause the game there, Yuri, because I noticed there was something with Griffiths' car there. So because he's missing a tyre, yeah, you're gonna have to pause it for graphical reasons. Go back and sort that out. So that's that really. But those two have finished off their pit stop. They rejoin in third, and in fact, his car got to get out in front of Lopez here. Let's see, because Lopez is coming down the pit straight, weighing over his car and all this. And Carr might have got the jump, but I think he's done enough. He's got enough of a gap to ensure he still stays ahead whilst he's still building up the speed.
Yep, Chap was also stayed out on the extremes as well.
Indeed, so Carr has got the jump on Lopez as a result, and that's exactly what he needed to do if he wants to try and catch up to George Roke in this race, and now he can try and set after him. I wonder if Quag is going to get the call this time by, and in fact, he set a purple first sector at the moment, so he's still going very quickly on these tyres. Is he going to get the call to come in this time by? Let's see if they come up towards the end of the second sector, and well, I haven't seen the icon come up yet for him as we look at Roke, who's 7.1 behind, and well, he's not set up, well, obviously he's only just coming to the pits, so you can't really measure too much there against Quag, so he's not going to have the lap time there. But has Quag got the call to come in, I wonder?
Yeah, I mean, you see, Chapman does the same for Quag.
Okay, he's coming in this lap, so I wonder, because he's been running very quickly and been setting too fast this lap, could he maybe, well, stay in front of Carr? I'm not sure if he can jump Roke, but can he also jump Lopez like Carr did?
Yeah, we'll see. Let's see what the pit stop time's going to be, how quick is it, and let's see where will he rejoin. Maybe he could return ahead.
Have a look, it's a 5.5 second stop for the Renault mechanics, 32 laps over. They are all expected to make another pit stop towards the end of the race. Chatfield's in, but where is Quag going to come out in this pit stop? Roke has gone through. I think Carr going to get the jump here on Quag. There is Quag. He's just building up the speed. I think Carr might actually go straight past him because he's still on high speed. Quag's still trying to build up the speed. Carr is going to look to the inside line. It's going to be quite tight, but I think Carr's got the edge into the first corner, and Carr has got the jump on Quag.
Yep, brilliant stuff by Carr. Gets up to second place. Next target for him is George Roke. Can Quag try and fight back as well?
Crucially as well, Quag has also got the jump on Lopez, so Lopez has lost out big time in that change for compound.
Yep, indeed. As the Russell's actually jumped Patel in the pit stop. I mean, Patel had to wait as well, and also had a longer pit stop, which would explain why he was jumped by the Rosa. But he is going to have a go.
Indeed, as Patel is now close to the back of, this is Kirishima DeRosa, of course, because Willow is in the pit. He tried to fake to the left, went to the right, and he had to jam on the brakes to avoid going into the back of DeRosa there. And, well, Valdenga is also caught up in all of this as well. But, yeah, Quagga's got the jump on Lopez, and he's got a second gap to him at the moment. But Lopez will try and catch back up as best as possible. But what's the gap between Roke and Car, meanwhile? It is, and that says 3.8 seconds for there, as Roke is getting held up by traffic here, so this could help Carr massively here. He's getting held up by that Williams, and that Williams is not really playing ball on Roke, so this is Carr's best opportunity to get onto the back of Roke here.
Yep, and he's right there. What about Quag? Quag should be joining in as well. Actually, he's pretty far behind, and he's actually got Lopez right behind him as well.
And Roke is still struggling to lap that Williams at the moment, and Carr is right on the scene with him as a result. And, well, is Carr going to use this to his advantage? Roke finally gets a lap on the Williams, but now he's going to try and use this speed to get a hold of George Roke down the pit straight. Can Carr get the lead of the race here? He obviously lost the lead at the start. Lopez sets the fastest lap of the race, but Carr is right in the slipstream of Roke. He's on the inside line. Can Carr take the lead from Roke down into the first corner? Side by side to go. Carr on the inside, and has he got the move done? Roke is still trying to stick with him into turn 2, but it's not going to be enough, and Amar Carr takes the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix.
Yep, George Roke's not going to be happy at all with that Williams there, and he has lost so much time from that. He had a good gap, and now he's lost it all, and lost the lead as well.
He's trying to stick with Carr as well as, well, Quagga has just put a lap on that Williams, and Lopez will have to do it as well, but it seems that Lopez might now be the quickest of these 4 guys at the moment.
Yep, right now it's a 4-horse race for the 4-way fight for the victory, it seems. And let's see, this is going to be a big turnaround. This race is becoming very unpredictable here.
Look at Quag, he's now trying to get onto the back of George Roke here as well. Of course, he talked about before these pit stops, of course, that Quag and Carr were lapping quicker than Roke, but because they were stuck behind Lopez, of course, they couldn't do anything with Lopez, and the rain is now cleared away, and the sky has got brighter. Of course, let's not forget as well, if we look back to the weather forecast before the start of the race, we were expecting intermediate conditions to happen, so I wonder, when we get to the second round of pit stops, because, of course, they'll be pitting a little bit later, these guys, will we see the intermediate tyres come into an effect during that time?
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. Of course, the track conditions are improving, so there is a possibility that we could see intermediate conditions.
Yeah, indeed. Meanwhile, Quag not close enough to get Roke on this occasion, as I think it was a little bit too far back anyway. We went to the station. Carr now with the fast lap of the race, 1 minute 30.526, and Carr currently holding on to that bonus point for the fast lap of the race, and he's already pulling away from Roke. He's got a 1.2 second lead now, so Carr absolutely flying now that he's leading the Grand Prix.
This could be his best chance to win his first race of the season, of the tricky season with Mercedes. So yeah, this is his best chance.
Indeed so. Meanwhile, Quag 6 tenths behind Roke, because as you can see, the gaps that we have is to the leader on the bottom of the screen. So that's around 6 tenths that Quag was behind Roke on that occasion. Meanwhile, Klaas, a little bit of contact there with Felix Sontag, as he's trying to make his way back through the field after he got damage on the first lap of the race, and so did Laura Chung as well. And Chung is also trying to make her way back through the field as well, as they make their way into the hairpin now. Then I think Chung got damage on the first lap. I might be wrong on that, but anyway.
No.
Okay, she got held up in the pits, of course. That's why she's behind Kloss. I had to think there for a moment why she was behind Kloss, because Kloss did actually have damage. But Kloss here might be actually close to get a hold of Felix Sontag down that pit straight, and let's see if he's going to get the move done.
Yeah, Kloss alongside Felix Sontag, and he should get this move done side by side, get closer to him, and he should get this move done, and he does. Go late on the brakes, and he gets the position done. Gets that position from Sontag.
He's up into 15th place now. Chung will try and find a way through on Sontag as quick as possible now. Then as we ride on board with the Lamborghini driver, she's right in the slipstream now then of Felix Sontag. Carr with another flash lap. He's just broke into the 1 minute 29. So 1 minute 29.013. I think he went a second quicker than what he did on the previous lap. There's all bit of contact there between Chung and Sontag into that chicane, but no harm done. But yeah, Carr is absolutely fine. Quag is on the back of Roke, but just like with Lopez, he can't find a way through on the Red Bull driver.
I think Mocho is gaining onto Lopez. The gap was 8 seconds, now it's 7.4. I think Mocho is gaining on Lopez. Lopez is dropping back from Quag and Roke.
Yeah, so maybe Mocho's got some good pace at the moment, and well, we talked about it yesterday. He needs to start putting these good performances in if he wants to stay at Haas next season. As now we ride on board with Rahul Patel, who's on the back of this is Kirishima De Rosa, I think, in the McLaren, and so far I don't think he's close enough yet, and he's still in the slipstream though of the McLaren driver. He's getting closer and closer and closer and closer to De Rosa. He's going to go to the inside line. De Rosa tries to defend it, but I think Patel might be alongside, unless not. De Rosa just holds on for the time being, but can Patel probably do what he did with both Valdingo and Kupok earlier on?
Yellow flag!
And it's Quarg is out of the race with a mechanical failure. We talked about runner reliability earlier on, and it's come back to bite Roman Quarg.
Oh no, that's cost him pretty much a potential second place and probably a potential win. And he's been Renault again.
Unbelievable indeed, and well, this was the look that Jesus Perinen had last week at the United States Grand Prix, and it's a brake failure that's taken care of Roman Quarg, as you can see with the graphic on the left-hand side. But what a shame for Roman Quarg. He was looking so strong today, and he's been cruelly taken out as, well, car sets another fastest lap. He just broke into the 1:28. But how cruel is that for Roman Quarg, who was battling with Rope for second, and it let go of him just before the chicane?
Yep, and it was too terminal, unfortunately, a brake failure. Oh no, I can't believe it.
Yeah, indeed, and that, like with Perinin last week, that is the cruelest way for Roman Quarg to retire from the Grand Prix, and well, we are, as a result, I think, down to, 19 runners in this Grand Prix, and Roman Quarg, what a shame for him, and he is going to be absolutely gutted with that.
Yep, he'll be absolutely gutted with that, lost more points there. Roman Quarg, and yeah, he's going to be absolutely gutted with that one. He was looking so good.
Meanwhile, this is Chung on the inside of Felix Sontag. That chicane, the yellows have been lifted. It's once again more contact, even more contact that time by, but still, Chung can't find a way through on Sontag. Both, of course, running the Lamborghini engines. Meanwhile, Patel is right all over the back of Kirishima De Rosa in the fight for 8th place as they make their way into the hairpin. But as a result of Quark's retirement, it's now meant that Lopez moved back up to 3rd, and Mocho is up into 4th place. And who knows, really? Could Mocho maybe get a podium? Because you mentioned, of course, he was gaining onto Lopez. Could a Mocho podium be on the cards today?
It's possible. Let's see if he's still gaining. I don't know what the gap is right now, but let's see. Patel's still behind De Rosa, trying to catch up, but he's actually going to stay back. I think this is a better position to be in. Just stay back from the first corner because he knows he cannot break him into turn 1, so he's going to have to try it here. Going to get to turn 4.
Indeed, as Patel now will try again with the chicane like he did with both Kupok and Valdinga earlier on in the race. Now then, as De Rosa defends the inside, but Patel not close enough. So once again, De Rosa doing a good job keeping the Lamborghini driver back at this point in time.
Yep, and he is losing time to Martin, so this is not ideal for Patel's race at the moment.
Indeed, as they now make their way through into the double right-hander on the racetrack, as we now look at Lopez is looking pretty lonely in 3rd place. I can't quite see what that gap says. I'll look on the stream to see what that says. 9.1 seconds. So in fact, Mocho has now started to lose time to Franco Lopez. So after we thought he was gaining, it does look like now that Lopez has started to respond to Mocho's pace.
Yeah, indeed, and yeah, the possible chance of a podium there is pretty much gone, but of course anything can happen, so it usually does, so it's not over yet.
Meanwhile, we're looking at Chung, who's still stuck behind Felix Sontag, and they're also dragging along, I think that was Jake Galloway as well, in that battle for what is, I think, 14th position, if I'm not mistaken, or is it a bit lower? I think it's 15th, actually, looking at the timing tower on the bottom of the screen there. But anyway, as now we ride on board with this is Franco Lopez running on board with, as he's 2.9 seconds behind George Roque as they make their way through into the double right-hander on that racetrack. And so that's that. Meanwhile, we're looking at Patel, who's trying to have a look at De Rosa, but again, De Rosa just can't find a way through at this stage now then. So now coming around that chicane as now Patel will try and find a way through on De Rosa as best as possible. But again, he's lost all that momentum thanks for trying to going for the move into that first corner.
Yep, and that's not ideal, unfortunately, for him. He does have a lot of pace, but he's just struggling to get past De Rosa.
The gap, meanwhile, between Roque and Lopez is 2.8 seconds, as Carver's got now a 5-second lead in front of George Roque at this stage, so he's continuing to fly out in front at the moment as this battle for what is 15th place is still brewing on. Chung still can't find a way through on Felix Sontag, and not far behind as well is Dominic Ticelli, who's of course making his debut in this series as well, and clearly still trying to get used to it. Of course, he obviously drove in these conditions yesterday and still hasn't been able to get a race distance yet in this car, so I think it's still pretty much a learning race for Dominic Ticelli, it's fair to say.
Yeah, and he's still not survived everything, survived the first lap, and he's doing well so far. So it's just experience right there for him. Of course, not ideal knowing that his teammate is in the top 10, I think. So, but yeah, he needs the experience here.
Indeed, and Carl will soon be coming up to lap him very, very soon. 5.3 seconds now the gap between the top two, as Roque has now increased the gap between himself and Lopez to 3 seconds. So Lopez so far hasn't got the pace to Roque at this stage. So it looks like the top three are just breaking away now at this point.
Yeah, it looks like it, that they are breaking away. So I think it's going to be a quiet race for those three at the moment.
Let's not forget as well, we are expecting some more changeable weather later on, especially when we could potentially see the intermediate tyres being put onto the car. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Of course, let's not forget as well, there are two different types of the normal wet. So let's bear that one in mind as well, because sometimes GP4 likes to do an impromptu stop for the two different compounds of normal wet. So that's also something to bear in mind. Meanwhile, Chung still not close enough to go for the move on Felix Sontag at this stage. So that's pretty much that, as now Mocho is just losing more time now to Lopez. The car sets another fastest lap. I think that says a 1 minute 26.3, if I'm not saying. No, that says a 1:28. The screen was a little bit deceiving there, what I was looking at. It's a 1 minute 28.3 there for Armar car, but still holding on to that bonus point at the moment for the fastest lap of the race, as we ride on board with Laura Chung, who still can't find a way through on Felix Sontag's Williams, and Sontag doing a good job keeping these two back, and Ticelli is closing up to that battle at the moment. Meanwhile, we're looking at Chatfield, who's trying to lap Jamie Griffiths. It looks like with George Roque, he's having a little bit of difficulty trying to lap this Williams.
Yep, at least he ain't going to be overtaken by the car behind him, which is Johannes Martins. Meanwhile, Patel's still behind De Rosa. Though De Rosa gets good traction going around the final corner, that's why Patel is not really close enough to get ahead of to go for it on De Rosa. So, yeah, that's the main reason there.
Yeah, indeed, and he's still stuck behind that McLaren driver at the moment. The gap was 4 tenths between the pair when they crossed the line. At that point, we're looking at Lopez, who's now 3.2 seconds behind George Roque, and now just making his way through into the S's. So really, Lopez just not really having the pace so far of the top two. He's now down in 3rd place, but I can reveal, if it was to stay like this at the moment, the gap will be 35 points between himself and Byrne. And as mentioned, Lopez would have a slim chance of trying to wrap up the title at the next race at Bahrain.
Yep, and knowing the maps, if my maps are right, I think he'll be 17 points away from winning the championship at Bahrain.
I'm having to think that now.
After Bahrain, sorry, after Bahrain.
Okay, fair enough.
He missed out.
Yeah, indeed. As now we are looking at Armar Car. I think he just set another fastest lap there. I think that graphic said. I might be wrong on that. But anyway, Car still continuing to fly in front. He's now got a 7-second lead in front of George Roque, as he'll be coming up to lap some traffic very, very soon. And specifically this battle that's going on between Sontag, Chung, Galloway, and I think Ticelli is not far behind either from all of that as well. So I think this could end up being a 4-way scrap for 15th very, very soon in this race. And Sontag still doing a good job keeping Chung back at this stage of the race. And yep, Ticelli's getting close, although he is going to have to get out of the way for Armar Car. So Car is going to have to lap the debutant very, very soon, and looks like he might have to wait until after the S's to lap the Italian.
Yeah, indeed. Well, because he's going to lose a lot of time with these three in front as well. So how much time will he lose? We'll find out.
As he's still behind Ticelli at the moment, although he is going to go for it now, so Ticelli does let him go pretty easily there with no issues whatsoever. But now he's got to deal with this battle that's happening in front at the moment for 15th between Sontag, Chung and Galloway, of course, who, of course, Galloway trying to make amends for the damage he got on lap 1, and Chung, of course, trying to make amends after she got held up during the pit stops after Patel made his pit stop. And for the normal wets, of course, as they now make their way onto the pit straight. Galloway not close enough. Meanwhile, on seen by the cameras, Kloss has overtaken Videri somewhere on the track. So Kloss is now up to 13th. His next target will be Joseph Willows in the McLaren. As meanwhile, we're going to take a look at this is De Rosa and Patel, who are still fighting for 8th place. So they're trying to lap Jamie Griffiths. Now, Patel will be hoping Griffiths holds De Rosa quite a bit here to try and help him out and get past the McLaren driver. Although it looks like De Rosa might dispose of him pretty quickly here, which he does. Will Patel also follow through as well? Although having said that, oh, no contact has been made between De Rosa and Patel, and it just looked like there Patel might have misjudged his braking there.
Yeah, that's pretty much misjudged braking. I just actually don't understand why De Rosa braked earlier than Griffiths.
Indeed, and I'm not sure what Yuri gave there as a penalty, because he was trying to speak there, but Ra was talking over him there. What were you about to say there, Yuri? And second time penalty for Rahul Patel confirmed there by Yuri, so Patel will get 10 seconds worth of penalties, and as a result both De Rosa and Patel are going to have to pit, and that might put Lamborghini's whole point streak in jeopardy.
Yeah, now he finally gets past De Rosa. I mean, that's just red eyes for Patel right there.
Indeed, there's been more delays there. Q-Puck has also lost his front wing and also clipped the back of Valding. I think that might have been a chain reaction from De Rosa in front.
Yep, yeah, that's going to be a chain reaction. No penalty needed, I would assume.
Well, we'll have to wait and see on that, as they're now all in to repair their damage, of course. And, I don't know if anybody's thinking about changing compound. I don't think they will, but we'll wait and see on that. But a new front wing is now being prepared for Rahul Patel in the Lamborghini, and no compound change at the moment. Not sure unless they changed from the hard to soft compound and normal wet. I'm not sure, but either way, they're still on normal wet after this pit stop. A new front wing for Q-Puck, a new rear wing for both De Rosa and Valdinger, as they get it done pretty quickly there, as Valdinger's having to wait for Patel to go by before he can get going again. And Q-Puck now having to wait for Valdinger, and that's all good there. So, a lot of chaos there down at that part of the track, and it led to a concertina at the stadium section involving Valdinger and Q-Puck.
Yep, and De Rosa still had a Patel from that, and yeah, that's not gone off Patel, even with the penalty as well.
Let's just pull a lap there on Chung, and Galloway's taking full advantage. And I think Galloway's actually trying to unlap himself there at the expense of Armar Carr. I wonder if he'll actually be successful in all of this. I don't think Carr will be particularly happy if Galloway unlaps himself. And, he does do that, and Carr is not going to be particularly happy with Galloway, although Galloway eventually lets him go through, and Chung says, well, if you're giving room, I'll try and get that place back. And now Ticelli has now found himself part in that battle.
Yep, Ticelli somehow in this battle, but Galloway's going to try and fight back on Chung. Let's see. Chung actually defends the inside line, so Galloway has to stay behind. Rogue's now caught up to these guys as well.
Rogue did caught up a little bit thanks to Carr having to deal with that traffic, but like with Carr, he's also got to deal with it now, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up losing time as a result. I wonder if Lopez could maybe take full advantage if Rogue has trouble with traffic again, like he did with Jamie Griffiths earlier on.
Yeah, let's see. The gap is, well, around less than 5 seconds, so it's possible, but let's see. Rogue is going to go from Ticelli. Ticelli does let him go.
So Rogue gets by on Ticelli, but he's still got to lap both Galloway and Chung. Of course, Carr did that with both of them on the pit straight, which allowed Galloway to briefly unlap himself at the expense of Armar Carr. But that's that really. They now make their way in towards the final couple of corners we go. As Rogue now then will try and lap these two. He's having to wait a little bit before he can do that. But I think Galloway will try and have a go at Chung first. But I think he's just a little bit too far back to challenge at this stage, as they now make their way onto the pitch, this very long straight now then, and Rogue not close enough to get Chatfield at this stage, and Lopez still 4.3 seconds though behind Rogue, as meanwhile Carr having a little bit of difficulty trying to lap Sontag, but he eventually does. But all that has allowed Chatfield and that to catch, not Chatfield, Galloway to catch up in all of that, as Galloway tries to get out of the way for George Roque, which he does do now, but Ticelli not able to take full advantage of that, and Galloway able to stay in front. But yeah, a little bit awkward there what Galloway was doing, and Lopez, although he has gained to 3.6 seconds, it's not really what he was hoping for if he wanted to get onto the back of George Roke.
Yeah, they both actually gained time to my car after car was getting held up by the Williams of Sontag, so wasn't ideal for car, ain't ideal for Roke getting held up there by Galloway, but still he's got more traffic to go through.
Yeah, indeed, as Lopez now they're making his way through the right and left-hander now. Then as he's got an over 10-second gap now to Michael Mocho, who started to lose some time to Lopez throughout the last few laps. As now Roke's going to have difficulty trying to lap both Chung and Sontag. Chung now caught up to the back of Felix Sontag once again. And it looks like those two are going to be having a scrap again from the looks of it, as car just comes out of the final turn to start lap 28 of the Grand Prix. And so a few laps away from the halfway stage of this race, as he's just started lap 28 of the Grand Prix. Still quite a long way to go, though, in this race. And we've still got another pit stop to still deal with, as Roke now has to try and lap these guys as quick as possible. He's just obviously he's already lapped Galloway, but he's now going to try and see if he can lap Chung as quickly as possible, who herself is dealing with Felix Sontag in front and still not being able to find a way through on the Williams, as Roke trying to lap her around the outside. Could Galloway take full advantage here? I don't think he will, but Decelli could try and take advantage here of Galloway, and he's right on the back of the Ferrari driver. Let's see what Decelli can do, of course. Decelli is hoping in these last 4 races he can do enough to at least try and get Galloway's seat for next season, but I think he's got a little bit of a task on his hands if he wants to do that. But anyway, as Roke now has lapped her, Chung, and Lopez still finding a little bit of difficulty trying to lap Galloway, and Decelli losing a little bit of time in all of that.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. He had to let Lopez go from that, so that's why he lost time, but you probably gained that time back.
Yep, as Lopez now will have to try and lap these guys, as the top three have definitely been struggling to lap these guys for quite a while now in this race, as Lopez now puts a lap on Galloway, and now he'll have to try and lap Chung as best as possible now as they make their way through into the right-hander there, and I don't know what was going on there with Decelli in the background. I don't know if he veered to the, it looked a little bit weird from the background. I don't know if it was the screen I had, but it made it look like for some reason he veered to the left a little bit on the approach to the stadium section. But anyways, now Roke making his way around to the straight. Another fastest lap for Amar Khan. He's into the 1 minute 27s now, a 1 minute 27.477. So he's not letting up at the moment, and he's got a 7-second lead now over George Roke.
Yep, as Roke has lapped Sontag. Sontag right behind him, of course. He had to let Roke go. Wasn't ideal for Roke. That he lost a bit more time, but at least Lopez has got to do with that.
Indeed, and gap is 4.7 seconds meanwhile between the pair, as between Byrne and Mocho, meanwhile that is. Meanwhile Patel, who obviously had to pit for damage and has now got a 10-second time penalty, is once again behind Kirishima De Rosa. So even though he passed him on the approach to the pit, it didn't make a difference in the end.
Yeah, McLaren had a quicker stop and jump, and that's why De Rosa got ahead of Patel. So yeah, ain't ideal, and yeah, he's having a hard time getting past De Rosa, it seems.
Once again in this race, they'll be able to try and keep it clean this time by as they make their way into the hairpin now. Then on the racetrack, as Kupok is still on the back of Valdinger, his car is now having to lap these guys as quick as possible now. Into more traffic that the race leader has got to deal with, as Patel just comes around the final couple of corners now, but he's still stuck behind De Rosa, of course, at this stage. As I've only just realised as well, thanks to that whole thing with Patel, De Rosa, and also with Valdinger and Kupok, it has allowed Willows, Kloss and Videri to get themselves into the points. So at the moment, the two Aston Martins looking at a double points finish here.
Yeah, I mean, De Rosa and Patel are like 4.8 seconds behind Videri, so they are catching, of course, with the fresher tyres, so let's see what happens. But of course, don't forget Patel does have the 10-second time penalty, of course, with that incident.
Yeah, as he's trying to find a way through on the guy that he had the incident with, but De Rosa still hasn't been able to is still able to fend him off at the moment is De Rosa, as meanwhile Galloway still stuck behind Laura Chung at the moment as they come out of the third corner there, and Galloway actually quite close to the back of Chung here, so let's see if the Ferrari driver can pull the move off, and I don't think he will actually. I think it's just in the end that little bit too far back to challenge the Lamborghini driver, and Chung stays in front for the time being. As meanwhile, this is Kloster having a little bit of trouble with traffic there. That was Jamie Griffiths, who's been a little bit of a nightmare when it comes to traffic today, it must be said. But yeah, Kloss eventually gets around him as he tries to close up onto Joseph Willows' McLaren, which will be for 8th position in this race, thanks to what happened with De Rosa, Patel, Kupok and Valdinger, of course, in this race. So that's that really. So now make the way through the left, right, and then into the final couple of corners now then we will go. As we now look at Lopez now, then, who's now putting a lap on Felix Sontag's Williams, and he does do with no problems whatsoever, but it does put him under pressure again from both Chung and Galloway, and they've still been stuck behind that Williams for quite a while. Decelli also not too far behind that battle either. Meanwhile, we'll see by the cameras, Patel has finally passed De Rosa, so he's finally got it done, or De Rosa might try and get him back into that first corner, but Patel holds on to P11, although it is only on the road, of course, because let's not forget, Patel does have that 10-second time penalty.
Yeah, let's see how he did it. Did De Rosa go a bit wide here?
Don't think
it's
so.
It's just a normal line.
I think it was just pure traction there for Patel.
Well, for once he gets better traction than De Rosa this time. Well done, Patel.
As now he's on the inside line of De Rosa there, and that was how he got the move done. He didn't even need to wait for the cut of a course. De Rosa is still officially in 11th place due to that 10-second time penalty that Patel has got, so he's really just got to keep up with him.
Yeah, indeed. But let's see how, of course, they're not far from Federi, so next to him is Federi on the road, but he's got to pull 10 seconds to these guys.
Yeah, indeed, as now we're coming around these parts of the track now. Then Chung is still stuck behind Felix Sontag's Williams. Carr, meanwhile, has got a 7.4 second lead in front of George Roke's Red Bull at the moment. As they now make their way onto the back straight now, then we go. As we now go in towards that left-right chicane. Chung has still not been able to find a way through on Sontag. It just seems like, for whatever reason, Chung just can't get by the slower Williams.
Yeah, it seems like the Lamborghinis are struggling to overtake, but Patel has been able to overtake a lot more than Chung, but of course Patel has a penalty. But yeah, Chung is not having a great race. I think she's having a moment here.
She is having a moment. She's made a big error going into that part of the track, and she's lost the place to Jake Galloway, nearly losing a place there to Dominic DeCelli, but luckily was able to keep that place. But yeah, a very big error for Chung going into that part of the track.
Yeah, big error from Chung going into that part of the track, and yeah, no, her race is going from bad to worse.
Yeah, indeed, as they now make their way through into these section of corners now, then we will go, as looks like DeCelli will try and have a go at Chung in just a little bit now. Then as Carr tries his best to keep pulling away from Roke, of course. I think he will still be increasing that gap a little bit more, because he is definitely the fastest car on the racetrack at this stage. But Byrne still not really gaining much onto Michael Mocho at the moment, so that's pretty much that really, as we ride on board with Franco Lopez's Mercedes at this stage of the race. As meanwhile, Mocho, although it's still under 10 seconds for him and Mocho's not really gaining too much onto Franco Lopez, as the Argentine makes his way through into the first three corners on the racetrack now. Then out of turn 3 we go, as he will now make his way towards the left-right chicane on the racetrack now then, as meanwhile DeCelli just looking at his gap to Chung. He's still not been able to find a way through on that Lamborghini, so again some more traction issues, it must be said, coming out of that final turn, which has been a little bit of a problem for these drivers today, both seemingly more in the wet conditions, because we did see, of course, throughout yesterday during practice and qualifying, we were seeing quite a lot of overtakes in the dry, but it just seems like in the wet conditions, it's kind of cancelled that whole thing out.
Yeah, overtaking in the wet is a lot more difficult than in the dry, and it's not ideal, but if we do get intermediate conditions, will the overtaking get a lot more easier? We'll see.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, of course, but when the interconditions arrive, we're not sure. It might arrive when we get to the actual round of pit stops, of course, and looking at at Car's fuel load at the moment. That won't be for at least another 18 laps or so. So that'll be around about lap 50 when that pit stop happens. Meanwhile, Galloway, unseen by the cameras, is actually, well, of course, no, he hasn't, never mind. Obviously overtook Chung, of course, when Chung made that mistake, but still struggling to find a way through on Felix Sontag, and they've even got one of the Hasses now trying to lap these guys who have been a little bit of a headache when it comes to lapping drivers today, as now coming around the final turn we go. Galloway not close enough again to get a hold of Felix Sontag out of that final corner, and well, Galloway just cannot get the traction to get close enough to the back of that Williams going down towards the first few turns, and really traction has been a thing that's really been killing the driver's momentum going onto that straight.
Yeah, pretty much is. And yeah, Sontag's doing pretty well with that Williams, surprisingly, unlike his teammate, of course, who's in last. But Sontag's doing well. Meanwhile, this is Galloway's best opportunity. Could he flick it to the inside? No, he's going for the outside.
He tried to go around the outside there, but it didn't work out. Chung is also back in the fray with these guys, but Chung has not been able to find a way through on Galloway at this stage. I did notice that the gap between Willows and Kloss, meanwhile, was around 1.4 seconds. So, meanwhile, Carr is coming into the pits this lap, and that looks like another impromptu stop because he's still got 19 laps worth of fuel. So, here is my question then. Is this for the intermediate tyres, or is this for the other compound of normal wets?
Could be. I think someone else is also in the pits in front of Carr. Of course, they are behind them. I think someone else is in. That's Andre Federi who's coming in as well. Patel actually stays out. Now Carr comes in.
Marcar is into the pits now then, but is this for the Inters, or is this for another set of, or is it for the other compound of normal wets? We'll see what Federi does meanwhile in the Aston Martin, and is this going to be a switch? And let's see then. Let's keep an eye on the colour of the tyre now then as he puts on a fresh set of tyres. Is this still normal wets or is this Inters? It's still normal wets, so that suggests to me that both Carr and Federi are swapping onto the other compound of normal wet, and I wonder if the majority, the others will do the same as well, because there is a lot of pit activity in the pit lane there. The Ferrari mechanics are out, the Aston Martin ones are out. That's an AlphaTauri mechanic out as well. So yeah, I do wonder if everybody else is going to be doing this as well, switching onto the other compound on wet. So is George Rowe, and oh no, Mercedes, what have you done? Mercedes have messed up with Franco Lopez, and Lopez has got to wait for the mechanics to come back in the pits.
This could be Mocho's well, it could be Perina's best chance to jump him. Unexpectedly, Mocho's actually stayed out.
And Carr, crucially, has stayed out in front of Azzy because Mocho's still up to speed. So temporarily, because Mocho is still yet to make a pit stop, Mocho is in the lead of the race.
Yep, Mocho in the lead. Never thought that would happen. Oh, Mocho nearly runs into the back of Lord Chung. The traffic's not helping him out, neither helping Carr out as well.
I'm looking at Carr's fuel load. I'm just trying to check that. That says 40 laps, so he's going to the end of the race here.
Yep, Carr's going to the end, surprisingly. And Chung's not giving Carr a hard time, unfortunately. But of course now Carr goes through, but only loses a little bit of time there.
Lopez, meanwhile, is still come out in front of Perinin, though, so that's very crucial. And, well, he rejoins in 4th position. Rote rejoined in 3rd after his pit stop. And more cars finishing off their pit stop. I wonder if Mocho will be getting the call very soon for Haas. Meanwhile, speaking of Haas, Kloss is in, Willows is in. They're all switching to the other compound of the normal wet. But I wonder if Mocho, he is coming in this lap, of course, and Kloss will obviously be gone by the time he makes his pit stop, of course, and Kloss finishes off that pit stop. But I wonder, with that hold-up Lopez has just had, could Mocho be close to maybe try and jump Lopez? I'm not sure if he can fully, though, because obviously he'll still be going up to speed, but will he be close behind him when he comes out of his box?
Possibly, but we'll have to wait to see. I mean, he did lose time to Lord Chung, so yeah, I think it's going to be a task. It has to get the job done.
See now then, as Mocho is now into the pits for his impromptu pit stop now then for Haas, and we'll see how quick this stop is going to be then from the Haas mechanics now then, as he'll pull into his box very, very soon now then, as the Haas mechanics now then, there they are, as let's see how quick this stop is going to be then from the Haas mechanics now then. And in fact, he was running it quite tight with the fuel. In fact, he only had about 6.8 laps worth of fuel before this impromptu stop. But anyways, Chung is also into the pits for Lamborghini. A quick stop there for the Haas mechanics. Now, where is Lopez on the racetrack? That's what I want to know. And as they come down the pit lane now then, Lopez is still not crossed the line yet, surprisingly enough. So let's see. where it goes, and Mocho's actually gone quite aggressive with the fuel as Yuri's pointing out, and he has got the jump on Lopez, but he's going 22 laps worth of fuel, so Mocho will have to pit again. I'm not sure about Lopez. Lopez has also got to pit again, so that is legit. Mocho is on the podium.
Yeah, and yeah, Mercedes have made a howler on Lopez, unfortunately.
And, well, Lopez rejoins right in traffic because Decelli unlapped himself there. As in fact, unseen by the cameras, he's actually got himself in front of Laura Chung. I think during that whole impromptu pit stop, Decelli was able to get the jump on the Lamborghini. So Lopez finally puts a lap there. But importantly enough, Mocho is now onto the podium.
Yep, and we'll see if Lopez is quicker than him. Will he be able to catch up to him? We'll see. But it is for legit.
Indeed, as we now look at George Roque, who's currently in second place. Is he going to the end of the race? Because I know that Carr is going to the end, but is Roque is going to the end. So the top two are both going to go to the end of the race then. So that's very interesting. But still, if Roque wants to win this race, he's got to get his foot down. What were you saying?
I was going to say, Pridden's actually going to the end as well. So I think he is in a legit third place.
Point. Byrne is actually going to the end of the Grand Prix as well, like with what Carr and Roque is doing. So, yeah, if Mocho wants to get a podium, he needs to start pulling away.
Does someone have a problem? Or have I just saw in my eyes? I think it was for Griffiths, so... No, it was a red thing. Yes, sorry. Never mind.
Yeah, because Sontag was in the pit lane, as you saw there.
Yeah,
but anyway, as meanwhile, the gap 9.7 seconds between Carr and Roque, meanwhile. But as mentioned, if Roque wants to win this, he's got to find something, because right now, Carr has just been incredible so far. I think this is the property. So, oh, having said that, the Williams mechanics were only just there in time to get to serve Sontag's car there. So, yeah, it did look a little bit weird why the tyre graphics looked a little bit odd for him there, and that explains it.
Yep. Yeah, indeed. Bad timing from Williams there for Sontag. Meanwhile, Kloss is on the back of Joseph Willows now. This is for 10th place.
So there is a battle going on there between Kloss and Willows, meanwhile, which unfortunately we're not watching for whatever reason. But anyway, now we're back to that fight. Of course, Kloss has been carving through his way through the field since he had damage, so he's been quietly been going about his business and doing a good job making a recovery. But let's see if he can get the move done here on Joseph Willows for the final points place as they go onto the pit straight now. Then can Kloss get the move done, or is he just too far back to get the McLaren as we come down onto the straight now then, as we're at the halfway point of the race, and we've already just passed the 6 o'clock mark. Of course, this race is going quite long because of the wet conditions, of course. If it was dry, it would go a lot quicker, of course. So yeah, I'm just kind of answering something that Armar mentioned there in the stream chat. So anyways, they now make their way through into the first few turns on the racetrack now then, and Clarkson wasn't able to get him into turn 1, but can he try and maybe find a way through into the chicane? He's quite close to the back of the McLaren driver. He's right in the slipstream of Joseph Willows. He's going to try and go to the right. He fakes it to the right, goes to the left. Can he pull the move off here on Joseph Willows? Down the inside into the chicane, and he can't make it stick, and Willows just able to hold on to the place.
Ned Willows just holding on to the place. Meanwhile, Cooper collapsed Griffiths. Same for the rep of George Roque. Griffiths is trying to unlap himself, but Cooper calls him off. But it is going to help Patel a little bit, but we'll have to wait to see.
Meanwhile, I don't think Mocho is pulling away here. I think Lopez actually gained a little bit there. So, yeah, at the moment, if Mocho is clearly not doing enough at the moment to try and get a podium in this race.
Yeah, it looks to me like Mocho doesn't have the pace to fight with Lopez. I feel like his race is with Byrne, but because Byrne is racing both Mocho and Lopez as well. So, realistically, Lopez has to watch out for Byrne. Same for Mocho.
Meanwhile, back to this battle for 10th place that's going on here between Joseph Willows and Bartosz Kloss now then for the final points place in this Grand Prix. They now make their way in towards the final couple of corners. Kloss able to grab the apex there, unlike Willows, but it looks like Willows might have some better traction coming around the pelotala there, and I'm not sure if he's got the gap there to stay in front of Kloss. I think he might do, but we shall wait and see as we come onto this very, very long straight, heading down towards the first corner. Kloss is in the slipstream of Joseph Willows, but he's too far back to challenge, and as a result, Willows will once again stay in front of the Haas driver.
Yeah, Willows doing well to get Kloss down. I feel like McLaren's are giving everyone a hard time. Same with Sontag as well.
Meanwhile, Lopez is gaining onto Michael Mocho. Meanwhile, the gap is 3.8 seconds. It was over 4 seconds earlier on, but now Lopez is starting to close the gap now onto Michael Mocho. Meanwhile, Kloss is now going to try and dive it down the inside of Joseph Willows into the chicane. It's going to be tight between these two, and somehow they avoided contact going into that part.
Yep, and they're both losing time to Patel. The gap was at 9 seconds last lap, now it's 6.8.
Yeah, indeed, but let's bear in mind as well that Patel does have a 10-second time penalty as well to bear in mind in this as well, as we now look at George Roke, who is still losing more time now to Armar Carr. The gap is now 14.5 seconds. Carr, just like the previous stop, is pulling away from George Roke.
Yep, and this is Carr's win. Carr's to lose, looks like it.
Yeah, indeed, and I want to add a little bit of a caveat with Mocho and Lopez having to pit again, of course, before the end of the race. Of course, we saw on the weather forecast, of course, and we talked about this a few laps ago, that we could be looking at intermediate conditions. Could we be seeing, by the time that Mocho and Lopez have to make one more stop, could they potentially switch on to those intermediate tyres?
Maybe, and I think Patel ain't going to the end as well, so we might have to watch out for him as well. But of course, he does have that 10-second time penalty, but the main part is Mocho and Lopez, so maybe we could see them switch it to the intermediates.
And it'd be interesting to see if they are quick enough and how quickly they could potentially try and gain onto this man, who, of course, like with Carr and Roke, is going to the end of the races. He just puts a lap there, and I think that was Felix Sontag, who's now got both Decelli and Chung right behind him as they come around the S's now. Then on the racetrack, is Decelli close enough to try and go for a move here on Felix Sontag? He's going to try and look to the outside, but it's not going to work out as they now make their way around this right-hander now then, and coming out of the turn in towards the hairpin now. Then we go, and Sontag holding on to that place for the time being. Around the right-hander we go as they now make their way into the final couple of the corners. Carr now then 15.3 seconds in front of George Roke. Meanwhile, 3.1 seconds the gap between Mocho and Lopez at the moment. I've just noticed as well, Perinin is actually losing time to Lopez, in fact. So, interesting stuff. Mocho and Lopez are both pulling away from Perinin, despite Lopez gaining onto Mocho. So, maybe the podium could still be on if they keep that up.
Yeah, the podium could still be on from them, as actually Kloss has dropped back from Willows, and Patel's gained a lot of time. Now it's 1.3 seconds between Kloss and Patel.
Looks like Willows has now got the gap now between himself and Kloss to over 2 seconds, as he's doing a good job holding on to that final points place as his teammate De Rosa. I'm not actually sure where De Rosa is on the racetrack, in fact, after the damage he sustained with Patel earlier on, but if I'm not mistaken, he's now the only McLaren into the points now then as a result of that. So he'll be hoping to try and hold on. In fact, no, De Rosa's up in 8th place, so in actual fact, the changeable conditions might have played in his favour there, because he's now up in 8th place and, well, doing a good job at the moment.
Yeah, he's doing a good job at the moment, and he is closing up to Jantus Martins.
And Martin's trying to get some points for Aston Martin here, of course. Vaderi, is he still in the points meanwhile? No, he's not, I don't think. No, he's not. He's down in 13th place. Not sure how far behind he is to Patel or not, so whether he's actually 12th, I'm not sure. But, yeah, it's no longer the Aston have no longer got 2 cars in the points now. Then it's just Martins who's currently in the points at the moment. Still doing a great job so far in that car, and after that amazing start he had to the race.
Yeah, indeed, and I think I might just saw the gap. I think it was over 10 seconds between Vaderi and Patel, between Patel and Vaderi, so I think Patel is the legit 12th now.
Okay, so Vaderi is actually 13th then. He's not a place above at this stage. Meanwhile, that's Chatfield. Oh, is that? No, that's Galloway, in fact, putting a lap on Griffiths. And, well, that's a little bit embarrassing. As Mocho, that was a little bit risky there. But given that Galloway is down the field at the moment, that's a little bit embarrassing that Griffiths is being lapped by Galloway.
Yeah, surprising. And, yeah, he doesn't really have the pace, unfortunately.
Yeah, it just seems like once again he's struggling with that Williams, whereas his teammate Sontag is still having quite a decent race in that car at the moment. Here is Mocho, who's trying everything he can to try and get this podium, but Lopez is still gaining onto him. The gap is actually now 2.2 seconds, so in fact he's gained a little bit because of course Lopez is now coming up to this traffic, but Lopez is really gaining onto Mocho, so Mocho in about a couple of laps might need to keep an eye on his mirrors of Franco Lopez.
Yep, he's got to watch out for Lopez. And that's the main fight there. Prelin's dropped down to 9.2 seconds between himself and Franco Lopez.
Indeed, so whilst Lopez is getting onto Mocho, Mocho is still roughly around about 11 seconds in front of Byrne. So if he does decide to switch onto the intermediate tyres and they end up being quick, he could still have a chance to gain back onto him, especially with that grip, and re-overtake him.
Yeah, there is a chance there for Macho, but we'll have to wait to see. It might not be for the podium if Lopez overtakes him, so we'll have to wait to see on that one.
Indeed, but then again, you never know. Of course, the intermediate tyres could come earlier than what both Lopez. Then again, that could help them out with the podium if everybody starts pitting for intermediate tyres, because it would mean they would be able to keep third and fourth at the very least. But it's now up to 2 seconds now between Mocho and Lopez as we look at Chung, who's still stuck behind Dominic Dicelli now. Then as they make their way through into the left and right handers, it looks like Dicelli's now lost a little bit of time to Felix Sonntag in front, as we have just over 30 laps to go in this Grand Prix now then here at Mexico City, as Chung now then will try and look to the inside line of Dicelli now then. Ooh, bit of contact there between the pair, a little bit more contact as Chung tries to barge her way through, but Dicelli is having none of that and he holds on to the place for the moment. And well, that's pretty much that really.
Yep, and it's pretty much summing up Chung's frustrating race up this today. And yeah, she's just been stuck in traffic, had a terrible start down due to pretty much avoiding action, and then of course Lamborghini double stacked, went horribly wrong.
Well, Kloss is once again attacking Willows for 10th position. Oh, a bit more contact in towards that chicane a little bit more. Can Kloss barge his way through around the outside into that right hander? No, he can't. Patel has also called to this, and so has Armar Carr. Armar Carr once again in a bit of a queue at the moment as he's trying to lap these guys.
Yep, he's lapped Patel now. Can Patel try and use him? Let's see.
Well, he's only just now pulled back into the racing line there to try and use Carr, but meanwhile Kloss and Willows really barging each other around that part of the track, and Kloss is really impatient being behind Willows at the moment.
Yep, really is being impatient, and yeah, he's going to try and go for it. De Rosa actually pits. That's an impromptu pit stop.
That's an impromptu. That is impromptu. There's no mechanical problem. And I think Valdinger is also coming in. So is that for a compound change, I wonder? Those two are into the pits. We've already had another one earlier on. What are those two going on?
We need to look at this now. Let's see what the compound is.
Okay, no pressure.
Still normal wet.
Still normal wet. I do wonder if these two actually stayed out or not, but I'm not really sure really if they... Okay, De Rosa actually stayed out according to Yuri there as Carr puts a lap on Kloss, and he'll be lapping Willows very soon. But according to Yuri, De Rosa did stay out. So given that Valdinger went in, I'm inclined to think that Valdinger also stayed out as well. And they're only just now switching on to the other compound of the normal wet.
Yeah, only just now. Meanwhile, Carl having a bit of difficulty lapping Joseph Willows. Now he does go through. Kloss and Patel are right behind him now. Now Kloss is going to have a real go at Willows.
And this is now for 8th place now as a result of De Rosa and Valdinger making that pit stop. But even so, Willows is still fending off from Kloss at this point. Kloss has still not been able to find a way through on the McLaren driver.
Yeah, indeed. And Patel right behind them as well. Of course, Patel does have a 10-second time penalty. I think at the moment he'll probably drop down to 12th anyway. Looking at this, yep.
Indeed, he will do indeed, especially with that 10-second time penalty he got, because De Rosa is not too far behind him at this stage of the race. But at the moment, he's still stuck behind both Kloss and Willows, which is preventing him from trying to build that 10-second gap.
Yeah, and that's just not ideal, unfortunately, for Patel. Of course, he struggled to get past De Rosa throughout most of the race after his first pit stop, and now he's getting held up by Willows and Kloss battling.
Yeah, indeed, as they're now, speaking of these three, they're just coming out of the baseball stadium now. Then Carr has got an 18.4 second lead now in front of George Roque. Meanwhile, it's 1.7 now, the gap between Mocho and Lopez. Surprisingly, Lopez has not gained that much onto Mocho since the last time we checked. As meanwhile, Kloss, this is the closest he's been to Willows. All race now into this is Kloss's best chance to finally get the move done on the McLaren driver as they go side by side down towards that first corner. Can he finally pull the move off on the McLaren driver? And yes, he can. Kloss finally passes Willows and he's up into 8th place.
Yep. Good job by Kloss. Finally gets past Willows. Now Patel is next to go for on Willows. He's going to go for it here. Could he actually get the traction? He's actually ahead, just about. Is Willows going to slow him behind? Willows actually breaks later, and Willows stays ahead.
And he holds on to the place. I did think for a minute there Patel was going to get him on traction, but Willow's doing enough to stay in front there. And, well, that was very close, but Willow's clearly was not allowing Patel to get by that easily.
Yeah, actually took a lot more curb than usual, went a little wide there, which gave Patel a good run.
Yeah, Willow's getting a little bit of oversteer, taking that much curb there, and that's why Patel was nearly able to get him on traction. It wasn't due to the fact that both of them are on different age tyres at all, because I think they're both roughly on the same age tyres, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong on that. But anyway, as now we look now that this is Chatfield who's now trying to lap both Chung and Decelli in this race now. Then again, it was 1.7 seconds between Lopez and Mocho, so I think that gap has kind of stabilised now between those three, if I'm not mistaken, unless Lopez is starting to catch up again at the moment. We are looking at him right now, and the gap has actually gone up now to 4.6 seconds, and I think it's because they're actually dealing with some traffic. They were actually dealing with some traffic.
Yeah, Lopez not having a hard time with traffic, and that's just not ideal. But let's see if he'll be able to catch up again.
Yeah, indeed, as Chung is still struggling to find a way from Decelli, as Chatfield now puts a lap on her into the chicane there, and he will go around the outside as a result of that. Meanwhile, Patel, is he close enough to get Willows this time by onto the straight? I don't think he is. I think Willows has got enough of a gap to stay in front of the Lamborghini driver, so Willows, for the time being, will hold on to 9th place as they make their way into the first 3 turns on the track now, then through turn 2 and around turn 3. Can Patel try and get Willows this time by in towards the chicane? Let's see.
Let's see, indeed. He's going to flick it to the outside. So he doesn't think about going to the inside. I think they're going to touch. Yep.
They have made contact there, but luckily nothing major there, unlike what we saw with the other McLaren of Kirishima De Rosa. So at the moment, they've both kept their wings intact at this stage. Chatfield now struggling to lap Decelli, and then they'll have to lap Sontag very, very soon in this race now. Then as they make their way in towards the final couple of corners on the racetrack now, then through the final turn and onto the pit straight now, then we will go as Chatfield not close enough to lap Decelli yet. Again, traction even suffering that with those guys who are trying to lap the guys in front of them at the moment. And well, that's pretty much that really, as we now look at Carr, who's just making his way around the hairpin now then on the racetrack. And so he's still continuing to pull away. He's nearly got a 20-second lead now in front of George Roke, and really, Carr is just cruising at this point.
Yeah, he's cruising at this point, and of course this is his best chance, and he's taking it pretty well.
Well, Chung is trying to have a go at Decelli there after Chatfield put a lap on him, but still, Chung is still unable to find a way through on the Alfa Romeo driver at the moment. Patel now, is he going to try again to try and get a hold of Willows? And in actual fact, he currently finds himself in a McLaren sandwich because De Rosa is actually behind him at the moment. Willow's actually going defensive into the first corner there as they make their way through these corners now, then through the left and then through into the right-hander now. Then we will go as they now make their way onto the back straight now. Then can Patel find a way through here on Joseph Willows as they now make their way onto this back straight. Willows defending the inside, but Patel though tried to go a little bit late and wasn't able to get the move done, and again Willows holds on to the place.
Yep, and that's not helping Patel at all, unfortunately. Of course, in this is helping De Rosa a lot, so Willows is doing a favour for his teammate.
Yeah, indeed, as they're now coming around the hairpin now, then we will go. Chung is still stuck behind. This is Decelli at the moment as they come around the stadium section, around the final couple of corners. We will go. We're looking at Willows, meanwhile, who still has always made a little bit of an error. He's made a bit of an error going around the S's there, but Patel was not able to take full advantage of that, and well, it was a near disaster there for Willows.
Yeah, near disaster, nearly giving the position to Patel there.
Indeed, as they now make their way through in towards these final couple of corners now, then we go into the hairpin as Patel can't find a way through now then on Willows, and now he'll try and see if he can try again onto the pit straight now. Then we go as Carr meanwhile sets the fastest lap again, a 1 minute 26.560 now. Then so he's now got into the 1 minute 26s as Armar Carr, and he's continuing to fly on in front. Meanwhile, Chong on the inside of Decelli into the chicane. Can she pull the move off? No, she can't. And again, Decelli holding on to the place for the moment now. Then and once again, Chong really struggling to pass the Alfa Romeo in front.
Yeah, that's pretty much summing up her race, and yeah, it's been a disaster for her.
It has been a disaster for her indeed now then, as Kloss now pulling away from Willows, who's busy fighting with Patel, but Patel tucked up again on Willows towards the chicane. Can he try and pull the move off? Face to the right, goes to the left. Can he pull the move off? It's nearly close to contact there between the pair, and again, Willows is not letting Patel go.
Yeah, he really isn't letting Patel go, and still not good. Kloss has pulled away a lot here, so you can tell how much time Patel can still gain from this, but it's not helping Patel out at all.
Indeed, so we ride on board with Armar Carr now then, as he makes his way towards the stadium section, flicks it in through that right-hander now then, as we now look at what is going on now with the rest of the field now then, into the hairpin, as now we're riding on board with Rahul Patel, heading his way in towards the stadium section now then, as he approaches the right-hander, and now heading in towards the hairpin now then we will go, as Patel will try again onto the pit straight if he can, but so far it's just not been working out for the Lamborghini driver. His car has just started lap 48 of the Grand Prix now then, as Patel will now make his way around the final couple of corners. He will go, and still not able to find a way through, as he lost out on traction again on that McLaren driver in front, as the skies are still getting bright out there, as you can see on the top of the screen. But yeah, so far we're not at that stage yet where drivers are considering maybe going onto the intermediate tyres. His car has now got a 22.4 second lead in front of Roke.
Yep, it's a dominant display for Carr, of course, so he's doing pretty well out there, and yeah, this is what he needs to get that win. Patel now on the inside.
He's trying to have a go. He thought about it, but he can't make the move stick. And again, Willow's just keeping Patel back at the moment now. Then De Rosa is still not close enough to the pair of them at this stage to maybe try and get himself involved in this scrap. But yeah, Willow so far doing a good job keeping Patel back.
Yep, and Patel needs to pressure Willows into a mistake, and he needs to get good traction around the final corner, because that's where he's struggling compared to the McLarens.
Meanwhile, the gap is now 2.7 seconds between Lopez and Macho, so Lopez is once again starting to gain onto the Haas driver, so providing they don't come up to more traffic, Lopez might be on the back of the Haas driver very, very soon, and then we'll have a fight for third position.
Yeah, indeed. So that's going to be important for Lopez. Of course, he's getting the gap down, but it's going to be important. He's got to get past Macho.
Indeed so, as they're now around the last couple of corners now then, we will go on the racetrack. Patel tries again, but it looks like again Willis has just got the traction on him going down onto this pit straight, and Patel is still struggling to find a way through on this McLaren as they make their way onto the front straight now. Then we go heading in towards the first few turns on the racetrack now then, as Willow's already going defensive into that first corner, but I don't think he needed to, because Patel was nowhere near trying to pass him there into turn 1, through turns 2 and 3 now then we will go, as we now make our way down this back straight. Let's see if Patel can find a way through here on Joseph Willows, heading into the chicane again. Tries to fake it to the right and maybe try and go to the left if he can, or is he a little bit too late? He's a little bit too late, and once again, just like before, Willows holds on to 9th position.
Yeah, it's losing him a lot of time. Meanwhile, Griffiths has been lapped by his teammates.
Well, that pretty much confirms how bad his race has been, and he's nearly going to be lapped by Decelli and Chung. So, yeah, it's not really been a good race here for Jamie Griffiths. He's going to be lapped by the entire field.
Yeah, and yeah, his season is just terrible. Just terrible.
Yeah, indeed, and I think he's even thinking he's written himself off about potentially having a seat for next season. Of course, he is linked with Lamborghini, but as we've mentioned a few weeks, that I think it's safe to say his chances are very, very low of getting that seat, and I think it's fair to say it's probably less likely that Griffiths will end up with a drive for next season.
Yeah, it's unlikely that he'll be in top class grid for next season, but he'll find a way back in the future, but well, time will tell.
Martins now puts the lap on him. Meanwhile, whilst he was speaking there, Armar has just set another fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So even though he's got a big lead in front of Road, he's still not letting off. Lopez was right on the ragged edge there, going around that stadium section, and he's still getting it all crossed up into that hairpin as he's doing all he can to catch up to Macho in front, who's just right there.
Yeah, and that's not what he needs, but he's still catching up as much as he can, but it's important that he gets past him.
Indeed so, as we now look back at Carr now, then he's got a very, very big lead out in front as he now makes his way through into the S's. Here is Michael Macho now, then the gap between him and Franco Lopez now then is 2.5 seconds between the pair as they now make their way through into these first few turns on the racetrack now then, as now we can see that, well, we're looking at, that was Lopez we looked at briefly there, I think. But meanwhile, Patel has still not been able to find a way through on Joseph Willows' McLaren in this fight for ninth position. Well, I'd say it's a fight for ninth, of course, because Patel does have that 10-second time penalty if you've just joined in as well. But looking at De Rosa, he's only around just over 2 seconds behind these two. So he has been slowly getting on. He's going for it this time on the inside into the stadium section. And finally, he gets the move done on the road. So on the road, he's up into P9. But now he's got to pull 10 seconds if he wants to be legitimately in P9.
Of course, he will be 11th. I did notice that he is over 10 seconds ahead of Ben Valdinger. So this is important right now. He's got to pull 10 seconds, but of course noticing that he's got to pit again. So it's going to be close. So he's got to push as hard as he can.
Yeah, indeed, he'll be pitting quite late into the race as well. And Patel, as you can see, they're getting the move done on Joseph Willows, heading into that stadium section. But finally, he gets the move done, and he's up into 9th place with just 21 laps to go in this Grand Prix now then. As now De Rosa, who's just right there in the background, will now see if he can try and overtake his teammate for 10th position. And, well, whether the two McLarens will be fighting or not, that will be another question.
Yeah, that'll be another question indeed. Because next target for Patel is Barges Kloss, but of course I don't know what the gap is between Kloss and Patel. It's 11 seconds. It'll be a bit of an ask, but we'll see. He's actually catching at the moment.
It's brought it back down now to 10.9 seconds between the pair now. Then as Carr now tries to lap, I think that's Jamie Griffiths in front of him there then, as he now makes his way through the S's now down the racetrack with still a very big lead in front of George Roke. It looks like he's going to pull him lap on Griffiths down into the stadium section, and Griffiths just going to let him go around the outside there. We're looking at Willows, who I think thought for a minute there he was about to make a mistake into the S's, but clearly not, as his teammate is now starting to gain onto him. The gap is now 1.5 seconds between the two McLaren drivers.
Yeah, gap now is 1.2 now, so it was continuing to catch up. It wasn't by much. I think before it was a moment, but I don't think it was. But yep, Willow's doing well. I think even if he lets De Rosa go, he'll probably still get a point. De Rosa actually also has a bit of a moment here as well.
Yeah, he's just made a little bit of an error going around the stadium section just as he's trying to gain onto Joseph Willows now then, as they make their way through the final couple of the corners now then on the racetrack, making their way down at the straight now then, as he's still quite far away from his teammate at the moment to start fighting him for that final points place, or officially 9th place, of course, because they have Patel just in front at this stage. Meanwhile, just looking at the gap between both Macho and Lopez, meanwhile, it is roughly around 2.2 seconds. So I think any time that Lopez tries to get close to Macho, it just seems like maybe they're starting to run into traffic. And speaking of which, Macho is coming up to traffic because he's now going to try and lap Q-Park. And I think that's the Aston Martin and Videri in front.
Yep, this is a battle for position between Q-Park and Federi. This is for 13th. Federi actually defends. Macho will probably lose a lot of time in this sequence of corners. That's going to help Lopez a lot.
Yep, indeed, and Macho needs to dispose of them pretty quickly, otherwise Lopez will be there to capitalise and try and get a hold of the Haas driver here as they now make their way down towards the chicane, as now Macho puts a lap there on David Q-Park, as for some reason Lopez took a bit of an inside line there going into that corner. I'm not exactly sure why that was. He was nowhere near these guys to potentially dive bomb them, but there we are, I suppose, as he'll have to now try and lap David Cupop before he can get on terms with Mocho. His car sets another fastest lap of 1 minute 26.422 as he continues to fly out in front. He's definitely been so dominant today in this Grand Prix, but there are still, including this lap, 19 laps to go, so anything could still change in these remaining 19 laps of the Grand Prix.
Yep, Macho now puts a lap there on Andre Federi, and he's clear. Lopez now losing time to these two as well.
Yeah, because Lopez was 1.5 seconds behind Mocho while all that was going up, and now he's had to slam on the brakes into the stadium section. He's now going to lose more time to Mocho, and it's going to give Mocho the breathing space that he was craving for.
Yep, and what he needs, and now he's got to push. He's got to pull away as much as he can and use that to his advantage.
Well, De Rosa is actually not gaining too much onto Willows, surprisingly. Willows has still been keeping that gap quite big between himself and his teammate, as we look now at Sontag, who's once again holding up a train which Johannes Martins will have to lap very soon, and he's currently in 7th place, is the future Renault driver, as he now makes his way through into the right-hander. And even Carr, oh, look at this, he's got a big amount of cars he's got to lap here, including Johannes Martins, who's trying to lap them at the same time. So this is going to get a little bit busy for Carr here.
Yep, he's going to be a lot very busy for him, so hopefully he can deal with that with no problems, but you never know.
They come around the final turn now there on the racetrack. Martins is not close enough to put a lap on the Lamborghini there of Laura Chong, but I think Carr might be close enough to lap him down this straight now then, which I think he is going to do because he is in the slipstream of the Aston Martin, and Carr should be able to put a lap on Martins with no problems whatsoever as he tucks back into the racing line as a result in towards the first couple of corners. There we go, but now he's got to deal with these three again, which he had to deal with earlier on in the race, of course. But Chung kindly looks like she's going to get out of the way of Carr before that happens, but and it also allows Martins to lap Chung as well, and well, that's that. So easy work there for those two.
Yep, easy work indeed. Now Carr's going to have to deal with Dominic Picelli.
As now they come around the double right-hander now then on the racetrack, as Carr will now try and lap Picelli before we get into the S's now then, and he's going to try and do that around the outside at this part, which he does do. Is Martin's also going to follow through as well? I think he has. I think he tried. Well, he tried to, but Picelli I think realised that Chung was right behind, so he didn't want to give up just yet. It must be said, and well, that's that really. So Martins will have to try and lap him again at some point on the racetrack as they make their way in towards this right-hander. And I'm trying to actually remember as well, but with these, I think these two might have actually raced each other before, Picelli and Martins. I think they raced each other in BTCC from memory, so I think they do know each other quite well from the racing aspect, that is. But yeah, it has been a while since they
coming in.
And then they last learned, and I was just going to point that out before, because I was trying to find my words there. But Mocho is pitting this lap. Of course, Lopez will be staying out for quite a while. But of course, I think Perinen will be in front of them as a result. But the question is it going to be enough for a compound change, or is Mocho going to stick with the wet tyres?
We'll see on that one, but yeah, it could be doing late on in the race, but we'll wait and see on that one. And also just realizing Kloss is catching. Oh, Patel set the fastest lap, surprisingly.
Yes, he has indeed. You were saying there that Kloss was gaining on to. Who did you say he was gaining on to?
Martins.
So
yeah,
that might
because of the traffic.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up because of traffic. Meanwhile, Mocho now then is into the pits now then for Haas, and let's see, is this going to be a compound change, or is he going to stick onto the normal wets, because it could give us a little bit of an indicator of what Lopez might do when he makes his pit stop eventually. But of course, Lopez will be staying out for a few more laps to try and see if he can build enough of a gap to try and jump Mocho in the pits. But I do expect Mocho to still rejoin behind Perinen, and then he'll have to try and catch Perinen up if he wants to try and get that podium. But let's see what compound he goes on and how quick this stop is going to be. Change of tyres. Is it still the normal wet? It is still the normal wet for Michael Mocho, so no compound change there for the Portuguese driver, and he's made his stop, of course, fueled to the end of the race, and Perinen has gone through. So, of course, Perinen is going to the end of the Grand Prix, so if Mocho wants the podium, he's got to pass Perinen.
Yeah. Yeah, he has to get past Byrne. That's going to be vital. Also, it's going to be the same for Franco Lopez as well. But it depends on what the gap is going to be between Lopez and Byrne when the pit window for Lopez is open.
Indeed, as we look at Patel, who's obviously now clear of those two McLaren drivers, and well, we're obviously not expecting Lopez to pit for until a little bit later on in the race, so he's got a load of laps to do before he makes his pit stop. So Mocho's got to use this to his advantage to gain that gap back onto Lopez. As meanwhile, that was Roke there, who was just lapping the two McLaren drivers. But yeah, that's that really. So Mocho has rejoined in 5th position, and he's now 18 seconds behind Pirinon. But that's the gap that Mocho needs to gain if he wants to try and get a podium today.
Yep, that's going to be important. So he's going to push hard now, but the fresher tires will be in good use for him. So he doesn't need to worry that much.
Indeed, as I say 18 seconds, it's actually 8 seconds. So the graphic at the bottom was a little bit deceiving. He's actually around about, I think that says 8 foot. Well, it did say, it said 18 seconds earlier on the graphic down below, but it said 8 seconds, so it was a little bit deceiving there. As meanwhile, in fact, unseen by the cameras, De Rosa's actually overtaken Willow, so De Rosa is now back into the points.
Yep, Willow's had to let George Roke go through, so he was getting lapped by Roke, and De Rosa just went through.
So De Rosa has now got through on his teammate there, but of course they are 9th and 10th, of course, because in fact, are they? Because in fact the gap is 9.5, so they're only just in 9th and 10th, but I think pretty soon, with Vettel pushing quite hard in front, I think he might be able to get it over 10 seconds, so that might put Willows out of the points as a result.
Yep, and it's Vile, of course, he does have to pit again, so he's going to have to make a big enough gap for the pit stop, so he might not be in the points just yet.
Yep, as we now look at, this is Kloss now that we're riding on board with, as he's now coming up to that traffic. And there is Joantus Martins, meanwhile, who is in front of this traffic right now. And he's not actually pulled away from that traffic at the moment. But Kloss, as you pointed out a little bit earlier on, Ra, he is gaining onto that Aston Martin.
Yep, and I won't be surprised if Patel is going to be catching up to those two as well.
Indeed, as we ride on board with Armar Khan, meanwhile, he's still continuing to pull away out in front at the moment as he makes his way towards this chicane now then, and he's got a 30-second lead now in front of Roke, 30.5 seconds it must be said, so he's half a minute now in front of George Roke, and he's continuing to pull away regardless of whether he's got a big lead, because for a while he was setting continuous fastest laps.
Yep, indeed. Of course he still has the fastest lap as on my car, but of course we don't know if he will still have the fastest lap going after this race, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
We're on board now then with David Kupok, who's still stuck behind Andre Verderi. He's not been able to find a way through on the Aston Martin driver, so yeah, Kupok is getting a little bit affected here, and it's not been exactly the race that Kupok was expecting today.
Yeah, not what he expected. Pretty much got unlucky with the Constantina effect between De Rosa and Patel as well.
Yeah, indeed, as just having a look there with Mocho, he's actually losing time to Jesus Pirinon because the gap is 9.3 seconds. And, well, yeah, as Yuri pointed out to us a little bit earlier on, he is losing time to Pirinon, interestingly. So, is it because he's caught up to traffic, or is it because Pirinon has got better pace than him? I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. Pirinon is catching up to traffic. It's just Pirinon's got better pace than him, it seems.
No, indeed. So Pirinon may have made a very good strategic move there, and well, if that's anything to go by, you would think he would also, well, he'll also be ahead of Lopez as well. So yeah, Pirinon here has got a very good chance of getting a podium here. So really, assuming the position that his teammate had earlier on before he retired with a brake failure.
Yeah, but of course it depends on what the gap will be once Lopez makes his pit stop.
As De Rosa puts a lap there on the Williams there. I think that was Felix Sontag. He just put a lap on there heading into that chicane. Or it might have been, no, it was Griffiths, in fact, not Sontag. That was Griffiths that they just lapped there, as Valdinger will be lapping Griffiths very soon, who's just, I think, just wanting this race to end, if I'm being totally honest, because it's just not been, again, another good race for the Welshman.
Yeah, 3 laps down to the leader, of course. That is not ideal, and of course, lapped by the entire field.
Indeed, so we're looking at Armar Khan now. Then he's just making his way around the stadium section now, then the baseball stadium that is, as he now makes his way around the final couple of corners now then on the racetrack car. Now they're making his way onto the pit straight as Keepot trying to find a way through on Vaderi, but he can't make the move stick. Vaderi once again fending off from the AlphaTauri drivers. They now make their way out of that chicane and now approaching the double right-hander we go. Here is Car, who's once again controlling the race out in front in the Mercedes now then. And, well, he's just basically on a nice Sunday cruise, really.
Yeah, pretty much, and just has to keep it under control.
The gap 9.1 seconds, and Mocho has actually gained a little bit to Perrin, and I wonder if that's because Perrin is now running into a bit of traffic. I'm not really sure as they now make their way in towards this chicane now then, and Valdinger will make his way onto the pit straight now. Then we go as he's trying to catch up to Joseph Willows, and that's that really. Okay, Ra. I'll mention that in a little bit if that becomes the case. But anyway, as now making his way in towards the first few turns on the racetrack now then, as coming around turn 2 and 3 we will go, as Valdinger 1.7 seconds behind Willows, so it looks like Valdinger might catch up to the McLaren. And as now coming around chicane now then, as 33.8 seconds is now the gap between them. 9 seconds now the gap between Perrin and Mocho now then. So is that traffic, or is Mocho now starting to up his pace, I wonder?
It could be that. It could be down to Mocho upping up his pace. Meanwhile, Kloss has lapped Laura Chung, and Laura Chung could be lapped by her own teammate.
Well, once again, another lapping of teammates, it must be said. And, well, we already saw that earlier on with Jamie Griffiths' teammate, Felix Sontag. And it looks like Chung's going to have that as well. So it's not been a good day for some of the teammates today.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, Patel does have a penalty for the incident with De Rosa, but he has got the gap up to 14 seconds. But he needs to get the gap up to where he can stay ahead of De Rosa in the pits and probably pull around 10 seconds, but that would be a bit of an ask.
Yeah, indeed, as they now make their way around the last couple of corners on the racetrack now. Then there is Patel, who's trying to find, well, he's just trying to lap there. That is Dominic DiCelli around that part of the track now then. As we now, this is riding on board with Bartsch Kloss now then in the Haas. As, in fact, Patel is actually not too far away from Bartsch Kloss, in fact, because Kloss is currently having to deal with some traffic here at the moment. And, well, Patel could actually maybe try and take full advantage of this.
Yeah, Patel could take full advantage of this, but of course Patel will be taking it for pride, of course, that he's got to do one extra stop. I feel like that impromptu stop, why did Lamborghini not put him to the end?
Who knows, really, but either way, Kloss has now cleared that traffic, and now he can set his sights on Johannes Martin, who, at that point, he was only 7 tenths behind.
Yeah, and now he's got clear air, and now this is fight for legit position.
As they now come around the final few turns on the racetrack there, we ride back on board with Armar Car's Mercedes now then, as we're on lap 61 of 71 in this Grand Prix. We're running on board with Chung, who's currently stuck behind the Williams here, as they now make their way through into this part of the track. Just looking at the gap between Lopez and Perrin, it's actually 17.1 seconds, so it could be quite close indeed once Lopez makes his pit stop.
Yeah, it could be close, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
Indeed, as now they come down towards the first few corners on the racetrack now then, as Chung will try and put a lap, or try and find a way through on Sontag, but can't. But Patel is now coming up to the back of these two, and well, it could be quite interesting as they make their way through into these first couple of corners now then on the racetrack. Chung now then trying to put a lap here on Felix Sontag, in fact trying to pass Felix Sontag, not put a lap, I apologise. Trying to look to the outside, could she try and fake it to the inside? She thought about it, but Sontag holds on to the place, and once again she's still been struggling to find her way from this Williams, and now she might need to let her teammate go.
Yeah, she might need to let her teammate go. Of course, Patel does have the penalty, so it's not going to help him a lot. And he set a personal best in the first sector, so that's not going to help him a lot. He's going to lose time here. So Chung has to let him go.
Meanwhile,
Valdinger
is under a second now behind Joseph Willows in the McLaren, as they now make their way through into the S's now. Then we go as they now make their way onto the towards the stadium section. Patel has still not been able to get by on his teammate yet. He's still continuing to battle with Felix Sontag, and well, Patel getting extremely held up there, and he had to back out of that.
Yeah, no idea. That's not gonna help him a lot, and that's probably gonna cost Lamborghini points.
Indeed, as now they come up towards the final couple of the corners on the racetrack now, then heading their way through the second to last corner, around the final corner and onto the pit straight now, then we go. Is Patel going to be close enough to try and pull a lap on Chung this time by? I don't think he is, and I think Chung has lost all the momentum to get by on Felix Sontag. So that's that really, and well, it'll give Patel an opportunity to try and lap Valding on the back. Meanwhile, Lopez is coming into the pits at the end of this lap. And Roy's had to leave us now, I'm afraid, because unfortunately he's had to go somewhere. So I think Yuri is now going to jump in for the rest of the race. So hello, Yuri, who's been there for quite a while, in fact. So anyway, Lopez is now into the pits then for his final stop. Now this should give Perrin in third place, but I do wonder how close behind he is going to be, and I wonder if he's going to come out in front of Mocho, because we noted that Mocho was losing time to Perrin.
It's going to be really close.
No pressure.
Will be very close indeed. Lopez makes his pit stop now, then of course fuel to the end of the race now. Then the Ferrari mechanics are also out as well.
Yeah, for Chatfield. For Chatfield.
It's for Chris Chatfield now. Lopez now coming down pit lane now. Let's see where Lopez is going to join then.
Mocho is only in the final corner.
He's only at the final corner. I think Lopez is going to do enough to get the jump on the Haas driver now. Then we ride on the ball with Michael Mocho. Look for the right-hand side. And I think Lopez has already gone from there. Yes, he has. And Lopez has got the jump on Michael Mocho. So he's in fourth. Perrin is up to third. But now the game is on. Has Lopez got the pace to catch up to Jesus Perrin before the end of the Grand Prix?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting if Jesus can actually get the podium finally. Of course, we know what happened last week.
And yeah, that's that really. What do you mean my mic is as good as McLaren? I think it's the audio glitch, Julius, not my microphone, as Laura just pointed out in the stream chat. So it's nothing to do with my microphone. So it's a problem that Yuri is unable to sort out, I'm afraid. So yeah, that's that really. As now coming down towards the straight now, then we go. As meanwhile, that's Kloss, who's actually on the inside of Martins into the first corner, and he's got the move done. Kloss is up to 7th.
Yep, that's actually a great recovery from Kloss after that damage he got on lap 1.
A very good recovery indeed. Just looking at the gap now between Perrin and Lopez. The gap is now 5 seconds between the pair now. Then, so we'll see if that comes down or not. But at the moment, Perrin is currently holding on to that final podium place. As we've got Roque now, who's lapping Dominic Ticelli into that chicane there. As Ticelli is now 2.5 seconds behind Laura Chung now at this stage. And down the field at the moment, as the car is soon going to be starting lap 64 of 71 in this Grand Prix. And that's that really. It's because Ra had to go, I'm afraid. So Yuri's had to jump in for the remainder of the race. So that's that really. As now we make our way down the straight now, then we go. As now Car will start lap 64, and he even sets another fastest lap, a 1 minute 25.339. And once again, Car has been absolutely flying in this Grand Prix to the point where he's now got a 37-second lead in front of Roque. As now they make their way through into these section of corners now. Then we're looking at George Roque now. Then he's just looking very, very lonely in second place. But what is going on in that gap between Perrin and Lopez meanwhile? Because it was 5 seconds last time we checked. And it's got down to 4.7. It's because Perrin is now actually caught up to some traffic here. So that might actually help Lopez get onto the back of Perrin before the end of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, but of course Lopez will have to lap them too. So it's really about the timing.
It is indeed, as they now make their way towards the stadium section on the racetrack now, then as they now make their way towards
by a lot here.
Because of course, as you can see, these two are currently scrapping at the moment, that being Videri and Galloway, as they now make their way into the hairpin. Perrin is going to get held up quite a bit through this baseball stadium section, and that could allow Lopez to capitalise, because the gap is now down to 4.2 seconds. 2 people have got pit calls, that being Chung and Ticelli, I believe that's said on the graphic there. So that's that. Mocho not too far behind either, but yeah, I'm not sure if his pace is any good to try and catch up to these two by the end of the race. Meanwhile, is Galloway close enough to get Videri this time by? He's in the slipstream of the Aston Martin driver. They have left a gap to Perrin, and it's crucial to point out. He's on the inside of the Aston Martin, heading into that first corner. Galloway on the inside of Videri now then, around the outside, and that's a good move for the Ferrari driver. Galloway passes Videri, and that is for P number 14.
Yep, some drivers can overtake on this track, and lots of drivers can't. Oh, is he getting it back? Little bump
Oh,
and
he is.
run.
He gets bumped and runned, and Vaderi is back up to 14th as Perinin now finally puts a lap on Galloway, but look how close now Lopez has got. The gap is 2 seconds between these two, and Galloway not letting Perinin go at the moment, and well, that's not going to help, and now look who's right behind Perinin. Lopez is right there, and now we've got a fight for third brewing as Chung now comes into the pits for Lamborghini. Victor Celli is now also in, but the battle of third is now on between Perinin and Lopez.
Oh, Galloway! Oh no!
Oh, Galloway went wide there. Perinin did a good job today avoiding action, and it's cost Lopez all the time to catch up. So Galloway's mistake there doing Perinin a bit of a favour.
I was sure about that going to be a dangerous rejoin there. That's crazy.
That was very, very close indeed. Galloway nearly aquaplaning into the side of Perinin. How on earth these two didn't make contact, I have no idea. But yeah, thank God Perinin avoided that one indeed, because otherwise that could have been the podium gone for the Spaniard. And he's desperate to get a podium back after he was robbed of that in the last race at Kota.
Yeah, I mean, losing a podium, not because of your mistake, twice in a row, well, it will be something else.
Yeah, indeed, but Lopez has now lapped Galloway, and now he'll set his focus on Perinin. The gap 1.1 seconds as they round the final corner. He's not close enough to get Perinin this time by, but he'll try and get close to him to maybe try and get him into the chicane. Patel, meanwhile, is coming into the pits at the end of this lap, as we see with the indicator on Chung, who just made a mistake going into that first corner there. So Patel's coming into the pits just as he was catching up to Johannes Martin. So yeah, that's that really, as he brought the gap down to 1.2, but it's not going to matter, of course, because Patel will be coming into the pits at the end of this lap. And well, that may not help him, especially with that 10-second time penalty that he's got.
Yeah, he's going to need an incredible stint to get anything out of this, because he's going to be behind De Rosa and probably Willows and overtaking and taking the 10 seconds. Yeah, I think Lamborghini's point streak is over.
Yeah, indeed. I think it could be crumbling here for Lamborghini. Patel now comes into the pits for the final time with 6 laps to go in this race now then, as he will go into the pits. Meanwhile, what's going on between Perinin and Lopez, of course, as Valdinger is now on the back of Willows. These two have actually been scrapping for quite a bit now, it's fair to say. As now, look how close it is. In fact, I've just noticed as well, I think Carr is actually not too far away from that battle of third. So could there be a situation where Carr might actually lap his own teammate here?
Oh, Martins has a car issue. Oh no.
Martin has got a problem, and oh my goodness me, the man who's in 7th place has got a problem, so he's going to have to pit, I think. He's got the pit indicator, and could points here be robbed for Johannes Martin. It'd be such a shame if he wouldn't be able to make it back to the pits, but that's such a shame for the Brazilian driver who's got, I think that's a throttle issue.
It's a throttle issue. He might be able to pit, but his incredible performance is probably not going to give anything out of it.
Sets another fastest lap. What's going on in the battle of third? Because that's right in front of him. At the moment, is Lopez going to go for the move for P number 3 now then? No, he's not. Perinin still in front, as they're actually having difficulty trying to lap the other Aston Martin of Andre Vaderi. And again, Perinin getting the gap because Lopez was having difficulty there trying to go around the outside of Vaderi. Galloway's coming into the pits at the end of this lap. Moto is actually not too far away, so it could now become a three-way scrap for third here because he's now right behind Lopez.
Yeah, but he lost time again, and Armor is about to join this battle as well, but of course lap ahead. And Martins manages to pit.
But can he get out in front of the 2 McLarens? I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. So could this be points down the drain? And in fact, they're going to go past him. So unfortunately, Martins is going to lose points here thanks to having to repair this throttle problem.
Oh, come on, Aston Martin.
Oh no, Aston, what are you playing at? You knew that Martins had a problem, and well, they were not ready for him to come in, and that's definitely thrown points away for Johannes Martins through no fault of his own.
Yeah, I know, he was one of the best drivers today, and he's not getting anything out of it.
Indeed, that was really very poor there from Aston Martin. Martins is now down to 12th place. Patel will be up to 11 because I think he'll have a big enough gap in front of Martins
and
as a result of his
Valdinger has again spawned in P10. As is tradition.
So The P10 Merchant, as he's now known as Valdinger, is now back up to 10th place. He could actually nab a point for Alfa Romeo, but of course McLaren, their rivals, both of them are in front. So at the moment, McLaren is going to pull away even further in their fight for 8th in the constructors. So yeah, that's that. 4 laps to go for Armar Car in this Grand Prix. Lopez, I don't think, has still got Perinen. No, Perinen is still in 3rd place. Lopez has still not been able to find a way through in that fight for 3rd.
Yeah, of course, we know that the Renault has incredible straight line speed, and Lopez goes for it.
He's going for it on the inside into the chicane, but Perinen does enough to hold on, and Perinen doing everything he can to hold on to this place. Of course, these two could be teammates next season at Toyota. Perinen, of course, misses out on the Mercedes seat, and, well, we talked about how it could have been a bit of a preview at COTA. We're once again getting some kind of preview should they end up being teammates here at Mexico.
Yeah, I'm kind of rooting for Perinen out here because of what has happened so many times to the Renaults.
Indeed, we'll have to wait and see. Perinen now puts a lap on. That is Jamie Griffiths, and Lopez will have to follow through. Oh, bit of contact! They made a bit of contact, but luckily they just about avoided each other. That's once again these two making contact at that part of the track, and Perinen now will have to try and lap Griffiths. The Macho is right behind. There he is. Macho's now in this scrap for 3rd. And Perinen has gone wide, but Lopez isn't able to get the move done. And, well, this trap, Griffiths, once again being a paint car, is right in the middle of this as well, as he's now trying to lap all of these guys at the same time.
What
Griffiths,
is going on here?
Griffiths once again being a pain for the traffic, and Perinen has now got the gap he needs.
Yeah, Perinen just gained all of the time out there, and, yeah, Jamie has been, and Valdinger's gone as well. Don't tell me they've crashed.
They both crashed into each other at the chicane, and Willows and Valdinger are out, so Patel is back into the points. As a result, so Lamborghini's point streak might be safe after all.
Whoa.
A lot happened there, but Martins is up to 11th place, and Martins might actually still nab a point depending on the gap with Patel, of course, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think something clearly happened between these two at the chicane. As we now approach that chicane now, then Valdinger on the inside of Willows, and oh, it was getting tight there, and well, I think Valdinger was a little bit ambitious there. He also had Patel right behind as well, and he got basically a front row seat in all of that.
Yeah. Willows turns a bit into him, and Valdinger's already coming to the move.
I don't know if there'll be any sort of grid penalty for that. I'm not sure because, well, it's a bit of an interesting crash there between Willows and Valdinger. I'm not sure who you put on the blame, but as a result, both of them...
It's a racing incident.
Racing incident confirmed from Yuri there, as both of them have thrown away a possible points for both McLaren and Alfa Romeo respectively. Patel could actually get points, but it all really depends on how much of a gap he's got to 10th place.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the gap actually. So Q-Puck is in P10 somehow.
He's way ahead. He's way ahead of Q-Puck. So yeah, I think Patel is actually still somehow, despite the 10-second time penalty, still going to get points
18
out of
seconds
this.
ahead.
So Patel is still going to keep Lamborghini's point streak alive unless something happens in these remaining 3 laps of the Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Macho is behind Carr, so that's not ideal for him because it's now meant he's losing time now to Franco Lopez.
I just want to point out, Jamie Griffiths is 4 laps down.
Jeez. Yeah, that was just that really to happen as well. Yeah, it's just not been the race for Griffiths once again, and it's just been a race to forget for the Welshman. As a result of that, as we now look at Patel, is obviously still clearing Willows and Valdinger down at that chicane. Meanwhile, Perinen has got the gap to Lopez. 2 laps to go for Armar Car in this Grand Prix. He's just crossed the line, and he's actually just right behind that battle for the podium. 1.4 seconds the gap now between Perinen and Lopez. As we look at Car, he's just now approaching the first few turns on the racetrack now then. Through into turn 2 and around turn 3 now then. We will go as DeCelli up to 16, so we're down to 18 words. I don't know if Willows and Valdinger will be classified or not. We'll have to wait and see. I think they might be, but we'll obviously double check on that. They might have done 90% of the race distance, but we shall see. As we look at Carr now, then he's just coming around the chicane now then, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to lap Lopez and Perinen before the end, because I think they're too busy in their own fight, and it looks like Lopez is gaining back onto Perinen, because the gap is now 1.2 seconds between the pair, so Lopez is once again catching up to the Spaniard.
Yeah, it's going to be a last lap showdown between them. I have a feeling.
Go on.
Yeah, I have a feeling that the difficulty of following in the final corner might decide this towards Periner, but if let's see if Lopez can actually get the run.
Shall see as they now come around the baseball stadium for what will be the penultimate, well, for the third to last time for them. It might be penultimate, depending on which, if Carr goes by or not. Martins is currently in 10th place, meanwhile. He's just overtaken Q-Pop, meanwhile. Q-Pop's back in the pits for some reason. Why is he in? Oh, is that... no, that's not a mechanical failure. Why has he come back in the pits? That's a bit of a bizarre one. Has he got any wing damage?
No.
I'm not seeing him change the way. And, oh, a bit of a bizarre one there. I'm not sure if he's just changed the compound or not, but...
Yeah, I have
what
no idea what
thinking
went
there.
on there. Oh, Lopez
just
got
cost him-
passed.
Got past Perinin at the first corner was all that was going on, so Lopez is up into third place as Carr starts the final lap of the Grand Prix, but Lopez is up to third place, and at the moment, the gap will be at 35 points between Byrne and Lopez, going into Bahrain with Lopez having a slim shot at winning the title next week.
Yeah, and kind of sad to Perinen because he has lost a podium at the end of the race again. At least he's going to get the fourth.
Yeah, indeed, but thanks to Q-Pop for some reason making a bizarre pit stop, maybe a strategy change, I'm not sure. But either way, they've just handed the points now to Joantis Martins again. Arguably, he probably should have been in the points anyway, if it wasn't for that mechanical failure. So really,
He
he's
also
just
will
basically
pit
got...
as well. What is going on here? I think...
Why is the Rosa pit? Oh, is it because I think that... Is it because he obviously... I'm not sure, really. Why is he pitting all of a sudden? Because this is very bizarre. Why on earth is De Rosa pitting with 12 laps of fuel? This is a very bizarre from the McLaren mechanic.
It must be related to the very changeable weather we have had. And honestly, why just not go the extra lap?
I'm not sure, but either way, Carr is about to come around the final few corners on the racetrack now, and he's right behind Perinin. I wonder if he'll lap Perinin before then, or he'll just allow him to finish the race. But for Amar Carr, after what has been a disappointing season for him so far, he's going to finally get his first win of the season. As he rounds the final corner, it is going to be Amar Carr who wins the Mexican Grand Prix here in Mexico City. And finally, after a winless 17 races, Carr is back on the top step of the podium.
That's points in the bag. Well done, mate. A good solid
Yeah,
race.
just a dominant drive after getting past the road. He's had to wait for this win.
Very good pit stop, but
Indeed, and finally, Amar Carr is finally a winner once again here in the OC, and he's definitely going to be happy with that. Kloss is going to cross the line in 7th place in the end. A good recovery for him after the damage he got on the first couple of laps of the race. George Rote will get in 2nd place. He just had no pace to Amar Carr whatsoever, but he will be happy with 2nd nonetheless, but 40.1 seconds off of Carr today. Patel is actually, I think, going to get 8th place because I think he's got over 10 seconds in front of the guy who coincidentally he got the 10-second time penalty from, Kirishima DeRosa, who is still in the points despite that weird pit stop that he made right towards the end of the race. But Patel will cross the line in 8th place, and I think he will remain in 8th. We'll have to wait and see when DeRosa crosses the line. But Sontag crosses the line in 14th, a decent effort for him. 15th for Chung, was never really able to recover after getting held up in the pit. So a race to forget for Laura Chung in the Lamborghini, and she'll cross the line in 15th position. DeRosa will cross the line in 9th, and I think Patel will stay in 8th thanks to his 10-second time penalty. We'll just double check that. DeRosa across the line,
25.
and yet Patel will stay in 8th. So Lamborghini's point streak continues, and Martin rounds out the points in 10th position. And yeah, it could have been so much more. Lopez finishing in 3rd, Perinin in 4th, and that is the race done with Amar Carr finally winning a race in 2022, and he is going to be absolutely happy with that one. So here are the final results then. If we go onto the full results screen, here is the final results of the Mexican Grand Prix. Amar Carr wins the race from George Roque in 2nd place. Franco Lopez is in 3rd, now with a 35-point lead in front of Evan Byrne, with a slim chance to win the title in Bahrain. With Jesus Perinin in 4th, just missing out on the podium. With Michael Mocho also missing out on the podium in 5th. With Chris Chatfield in 6th, Barges Kloss in 7th. Rahul Patel remains in 8th despite his 10-second time penalty. With Kirishima DeRosa in 9th, and Joantis Martins completing the points in 10th position for Aston Martin. followed by his teammate Andre Verderi in 11th. Then it is David Kupak in 12th, Jake Galloway 13th, Felix Sontag in 14th, with Laura Chung 15th, Dominic DeCelli in his debut in 16th, with Jamie Griffiths, a race to forget, in 17th, with Joseph Willows still classified in 18th, and Ben Svaldinger still classified in 19th after those two took each other out, with Roman Quark, Evan Byrne, and Miklos Gal, the classified retirement from the Grand Prix. And the fastest lap of the race goes to Armar Carter, along with the 25 points that he gets for victory. He'll also get the bonus point for the fastest lap of the race, so 26 points. 26 points going to Armar Carr in the end, and Jamie Griffiths 5 seconds off in the end of the fastest lap. Well, to celebrate Armar Carr and Mercedes' achievements, we all now hear the national anthems of the United Kingdom and of Germany.
I really hope my microphone didn't echo the anthems there, but yep.
That is that then. So, yeah, that has been it then from the Mexican Grand Prix here in Mexico City. Probably safe to say not the best race we've had this season, but it did have its moments throughout the race indeed. And, yeah, Armar Carr finally winning a race in 2022. But there you have it then, guys. That has been it. I hope you've enjoyed it. The next top class race will, of course, be on next week at the Bahrain Grand Prix in Sakhir, where Franco Lopez will have his first chance at winning the driver's title, of course. Whether he will do or not, we'll have to wait and see. And not sure about the constructors. I will have to double check on that, of course, when I send it out, of course, on Discord. But yeah, that has been it. Of course, don't forget this weekend we, of course, have DTM over at Spa-Francorchamps for the penultimate race of the season, where Will Parrish will have his first chance at winning the DTM title. But of course, he will need quite a bit of luck to be able to achieve that, of course. Of course, next week we will have World Champ Car as well over at Fuji Speedway, where Julius Anderson will have his first chance at winning the title. And of course, as mentioned as well, we'll also have the Bahrain Grand Prix for the top class as well. No F2 next week. That'll be back in 2 weeks for the finale at Balcarce. But until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you have enjoyed it. So thank you all for watching. I'm JW97. He's been Yuri. And of course, we did have Ra earlier on, so he has been Ra. And we will see you next time. Goodbye.
We aren't scrapping Mexico. Bye.